Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the City Council meeting tonight. Tonight, we will begin the meeting with a prayer and pledge by Councilman Michael Balls.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, guide us on the right path, the paths of those who you have bestowed your blessings, and not of those who go astray and incur their wrath. And God, please look over this City Council and the City Council people to make sure that they do the right thing for the City of Saginaw. All this we ask in your name. Amen. Jesus.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, can you have roll call, please?
Thank you. Councilman Fitzpatrick is absent. Councilman Tibbs? Councilwoman Bench? Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill? Councilman Coloris? Councilwoman Moore? Councilman Balls? Councilman Clark?
Here.
And Mayor Browning is absent. We have 7 present and 2 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just before we get started, just like to remind the audience to remain quiet and refrain from speaking as we proceed with our meeting. I also ask you to turn off cell phones, put them on silent or mute, please. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. I have a couple announcements this evening. I'd like to point out that consent agenda item number 6 has been removed from the agenda, and no action is being requested at this time on that item. And also, Monday, October 6th is the last day to register to vote in the November 4th general election. To register to vote, visit the city clerk's office, the county clerk's office, or any Secretary of State branch office. Our first item, we have a proclamation this evening. Proclamation is designated September 25th, 2014, Day of Remembrance for Murder Victims.
Madam Clerk, and Councilman Clark will read that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is our representatives from POEM, the National Organizations of Parents of Murdered Children, present? If they are, we'd ask that you approach the podium as we read the proclamation. We have Barbara Clark here, Tangela Owens, Felicia Hooker, and Frederick Harvey. Okay. And one more, but that's okay. Thank you. Why don't you give your name?
I'm Tangela.
Oh, you are Tangela. Okay, all right. Proclamation. Whereas losing a loved one to homicide is both devastating and life-changing. Family members of these innocent victims are counted among the victims as well, with heartbreak and emotional scars that are often permanent. And whereas the National Organization of Parents of Murdered Children, Inc. began in 1978 from the humble beginning of 5 families who had lost children to senseless and horrific acts of violence. Together, these families developed POMC, with a mission to make a difference through ongoing emotional support, education, prevention, advocacy, and awareness. And whereas the vision of POMC is to provide support and assistance to all survivors of homicide victims while working to create a world free of murder. POMC provides the support needed to help parents and other survivors facilitate the reconstruction of a new life and to promote a healthy resolution after suffering such a loss. And whereas POMC not only works to help survivors deal with their acute grief, but also helps with the criminal justice system. The staff of the national headquarters of POMC will assist families in such fields as law enforcement, criminal justice, and advocacy. And whereas POMC now has over 200 chapters and contact people nationwide. In 2013, a local chapter of POMC was established in Saginaw County, formed by individuals working in the criminal justice field, mental health professionals, and survivors. And whereas in 2007, the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives established September 25 as the National Day of Remembrance for Murder Victims. This date is set aside to honor and remember the victims who have lost their lives to senseless violence and to offer support to the families and communities of these victims. It is a day to promote awareness throughout our community of the impact of such violent crimes. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Dennis D. Browning, Mayor of the City of Saginaw, on behalf of my fellow council members, do hereby proclaim September 25, 2014 as a Day of Remembrance for Murder Victims in the City of Saginaw, and urge all citizens to observe this day by supporting the families of victims and participating in community efforts to create a world that is free of violence and homicide. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Saginaw to be affixed this 22nd day of September in the year of our Lord 2014. Signed, Dennis D. Browning, Mayor. Councilpersons Amos O. O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Michael D. Balls, Annie Bench, Larry Coloris, Daniel Fitzpatrick, Floyd Clark, Brenda F. Moore, and Damon L. Tibbs, and Timothy Morales, City Manager. Please step forward, and I'll be happy to present this proclamation. Come step right forward.
On behalf of POMC chapter, Saginaw chapter, we would like to thank you for acknowledging National Day of Remembrance. And we also have a program this 25th, September 25th, 2014. It will be at Christ Fellowship Baptist Church, 818 North Washington. And we're asking that City Council, community, anyone that has lost a loved one to homicide to please come and assist us in the program, that we may acknowledge the memory of all lost loved ones here in the City of Saginaw. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Next on your agenda.
The time for that event, could you repeat that for us, please? The time, 6 o'clock. Thank you. Madam Clerk? Thank you. Public hearing. The purpose of a public hearing is for the public to address council as a whole and for council to receive comments for consideration at the time action may be taken. Public comments shall not be addressed to individual council members, city staff, or audience. Speakers must limit their remarks to the subject of the hearing. Begin by stating your name. The applicant, main presenter, designated representative will be allowed 15 minutes. Other speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. Speakers may ask general questions, but shall not ask questions of specific council members. And I call for any individuals who have comments on the public hearing for the Duparian Corporation. Please come up to the podium to speak.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, Manager Morales. My name is Tom Miller. I'm with Saginaw Future. Here again for a tax abatement. This one is a little different than the last several ones that we've done. If you recall, the last several that we did were OPRA's, Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act exemptions. That freezes the property values on a building so that when people make investments, their taxes don't go up, to encourage redevelopment of old buildings. This one is a PA 198. Typically, 90% of the PA 198s that we do are for personal property. So if a company buys a piece of equipment, they pay a tax on it every year, and that would abate 50% of the taxes on that piece of equipment. Now, we voted on Proposal 1, and that passed in the state of Michigan, so those are going away. The kind we have before you today will still come before you in the future. It's PA 198, but it's for real property. So in this case, it is going to improve the building. So any improvements, new investment made on any new buildings, whether it's an addition or simply to improve the existing structure is abatable through the PA 198. So businesses will still continue to pay their current existing taxes on everything that they have in place today. What you would be abating if you do approve it would be 50% of the investment to their upgrades. And so we have a company representative here today that can speak about the project, but I will let you know that because of our previous conversations about some of these abatements coming before you, had suggested to the company that we may want to have a tour and a meeting with city council members to bring them through the facility so that they can get a better idea of what kind of businesses are locating in their community, and ask them questions specifically about how their hiring processes work, or what kind of things they manufacture, or any interesting things that they might have questions on. That also brings up another point that the manager suggested. We do a economic development tour every couple of years where we get all the council members together and we go back through and look at some of the projects that you've approved over the past couple of years. A number of you have been on those tours in the past. Some of the new council members have not. But I think it is a good way to, you approve these things and then we don't hear about them, because there's no action to be taken. But the tour gives us an opportunity to go back through some of those facilities, meet some of the employees, meet some of the owners of the companies, and you can get a sense for what you're voting on and how that's helped the company. So I'll turn that over to the company representative.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Thompson. I'm the controller at Duperrin Corporation. I'm here representing Tammy Bernier and Terry Duperrin. We have a project going on. We bought the building in 2012 on Leon Scott and did a lot of internal renovations to make it fit our needs. We knew there'd be some other things coming up in the future, so now we're putting on a new roof and making some upgrades to parking lot fixtures and things like that. So we're looking for a tax abatement, as Tom spoke about. We're very committed to the community, growing in the city. We're experiencing about a 25% increase in revenues annually. This year we've added 6 people, and we're looking to add another 4 to 6 people next year. And so we're definitely creating jobs within the city. We'll hire and consider city residents for all the positions as long as they're qualified. We work through Michigan Works and local recruiters to find local talent. And we're proud of the city of Saginaw. We're helping make improvements across the street at Unity Park. And like Tom said, we would invite you to come for a tour anytime. We'd like to set it up and show you we're proud of our business. We make big screens for municipal wastewater treatment plants that can range from 10 feet to, I think our biggest one's like 75 feet tall by 20, 30 feet wide. And it helps remove the debris before it goes into the wastewater treatment plant. So thank you for your time.
Council members, do you have questions? Councilman Pauls?
Employees that work for your company now live in the city of Saginaw?
Yes, we currently have five employees in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to say thank you for being a good example of corporate citizenship over there. I was over there with the Northeast Neighborhood Association president this afternoon, and the Unity Park looks good. I mean, it's very clean, and thank you for your assistance with that.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Thompson, thank you for coming, and Tom, again, as you always do, pinch in for all of these. And Mr. Terry Duperrin, for those of you who don't know, he is a community businessman. Actually had a business on Washington at one time and moved over to the Leon Scott Norman Street area. So he is truly a committed person to the community, know him very well, and works to create entrepreneur opportunities for the community. So appreciate you staying in Saginaw. Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on the Duparian public hearing session?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Larry Campbell, number 4 Milan Court, here in the city of Saginaw. I'm president of the Northeast Side Neighborhood Association. And as it was mentioned by Councilman Tibbs, we did a brief tour today at some areas over there, and I'll be talking on another topic later on. But as for Mr. DePierre, as you just reiterated, very corporate citizen. Had the opportunity to meet him when he moved, as she mentioned, in 2012. And we toured that facility, and I would ask, as we do in the near future, residents in the area that you are bringing businesses into, that some residents be given that opportunity along with the council to voice their opinion or objections or whatever. Yes, Mr. DePierre and Tammy, his daughter, are doing an excellent job over there. We have utilized their services along with Project Unify, Faith Bootwear, and they have been tremendously helping out in the community. And we definitely would love to keep them there. And as for employment, when they did move in that 2012, we toured that, and I did see a mixture of employment at that time. I haven't been there in a while, but as she mentioned, I would hope that we are looking in the community, as she mentioned, and that there are some qualified people in here. So I would definitely be in favor of giving them this tax abatement.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the public hearing? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the public hearing? Final request, is there anyone else who wishes to speak on the public hearing? No further comments. Need a motion to close the hearing? All in favor? Hearing is closed. Madam Clerk?
It's personal appearances.
Thank you. Just a reminder for the audience, personal appearances, the speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The purpose of a personal appearance is to address council. Speakers shall address their remarks to council as a whole. Remarks shall not be addressed to individual council members, city staff, or the audience. Speakers may ask general questions about the topic of their presentations. Questions will be referred to the city staff for appropriate follow-up. Speakers shall not ask questions of specific council members during their time. First speaker.
Weiss.
Good evening, Council. My name is Barbara Weiss. I live at 1020 Reed Street, Saginaw. I'm here to talk about a pit bull. Started with this pit bull in July. There still is no sign in the front window. The pit bull is still there. The community policeman did, I guess, notify them and told them that he had to be chained and in a fenced-in yard, but they also needed to register him. That was fine for about a month or so. Then we had the storms. They have a dead tree in their backyard. Part of the tree fell and crushed the fence. Henceforth, we have no more fence. So the pit bull has to get out sometime. And then secondly, I'd like to talk on rent houses. I think it's time that the city somehow start, what do I want to say, watching the rent houses and making sure that the landowners are doing what they're supposed to do with the rental property, and we wouldn't have all this blight that we have now. They come when they have to rent them again, and they go through them and get them looking pretty spiffy. And after that, you don't see them anymore. I've lived in my house for 47 years. I now am paying someone to cut the grass at the house at 1018 Reed. And I'm on a fixed income. And I don't know why that the landlords can't make sure that somebody cuts their lawns or that they add it to their rent. And just as an afterthought, I see all the water bottles up on the tables. I thought Saginaw was one of the places that had the best water in Michigan. And here we are drinking bottled water. Just wondering how that's getting taken care of. Thank you.
On our list, we have Deborah Milconian.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Melconian, the president of the Adams Boulevard Neighborhood Association. My topic is diversity, as it has been brought to the attention of the Saginaw News and the appalling headlines that we've been reading. I was a principal at Merrill Park Elementary School for 17 years. I've been retired for 11 years, but that's a total of 28 years since my realm at Merrill Park and as a non-school employee. I watched the family structure deteriorate, unemployment go up, single-parent families taking over, grandparents running households, and what life these children began to confront with as the years have gone on since I've retired. The schools, Saginaw Public Schools, with their budget deficits, no longer have counselors, social workers, minimal, school psychologists, so there are no avenues for children to turn to regarding values, regarding questions, regarding any problems they may be incurring at home. Programs at the elementary and secondary level have been eliminated for kids for after school. Community police officers did have the opportunity to go into the schools. Well, this was even before CPOs, with the DARE program. I'm sure you all remember. And our community police office presenting programs to students at the elementary and the secondary level regarding self-esteem, bullying programs, so on and so forth. They're gone. Who are the role models that our children have? Where is the hope for so many kids? Where do we point the finger? Kids are graduating from high school, with many of them should have their diplomas stamped not for use. There's a lot of reasons why. I will not get into that. So kids are coming out of school not prepared. Again, where do we point the finger? How diverse is the Big Brother, Big Sister program in the city of Saginaw? I haven't taken the time to look that up. Which offer positive role models to kids. How are our churches helping to provide role models in our schools by volunteering to create a You Can Do It type of program? How attractive is the city of Saginaw making it for individuals to move here? With budget constraints that we have, it provides overwhelming responsibilities. Thank you.
Our final speaker this evening is Larry Campbell.
Good evening again. I'm Larry Campbell again. I live on the Northeast Side, president of the Northeast Side Neighborhood Association. And I'm here today to talk to you in reference to the catwalk, Arthur 80 neighborhood on Cathay and on Norman Street. It's been in dire needs of work for several years. And right now it's been closed down, and I appreciate Mr. Carwatt and some council members for assisting in bringing that data to us. I don't have the specific memo in reference to the cost, but the catwalk has been shut down as we speak. The kids are crossing through, and they've been doing this, and not only kids, adults are crossing through the train, CSX train tracks. The train comes in at the same time as the kids go to school and as they leave from school. I clean up around that area with my neighborhood association and with the assistance of Mr. Carwatts to make it more prevalent for them, at least walking through that area. But I'm here because it's a endangerment. It's a public safety endangerment. I'm leery of something happening to the kids. There's little ones, real small ones crossing through in packs. I seen today as I toured it, the parents are coming out, and I also getting with the Board of Education, and I'm working with the liaison here, also from your representation with the Board of Education. I've had dialogue with some of the Board of Education members, not the superintendent as of yet, but I'm looking for all avenues to rectify this before someone is hurt, before there's a life or limb lost at that location. Because I've seen the kids playing dodge coming through there. I've had a lot of residents come to me, and some of them should have been here tonight, come to me emphasizing that the kids, some of them, they're little, so they don't know what they do. But the bottom line, it does fall on the parents, but they can't be there at all times. So I understand there is a cost factor, but I need every party to look into this and see what we can do as a unit, all parties, to see if we can raise some money or some way to alleviate this before. I would hate to come here or hear about something tomorrow where there's a loss of any lives, any loved one or any small little one. So I am deploying that the council looks at it from every avenue, every perspective, and if there's anything we can do to alleviate this, we need to definitely put some emphasis on it. I know this was built back in the 70s, and it was made as a thoroughfare, but right now, and there hasn't been an excessive amount of usage, but I'm just hoping nothing happened. So I'm reaching out to the council as a whole. I've reached out to some of your staff, and I've had the city managers aware, and I think you've got a memo on that several weeks ago. It's been closed, I believe, 2 weeks now. But in preparation of the school opening, we're asking for you to look at it a little bit more intense. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you. That takes us to remarks of council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Again, just like to remind council members of our time limit of 5 minutes. And tonight we will begin comments with Councilman Annie Bench.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. First of all, thank you so much to our 3 public speakers for being here tonight. Ms. Weiss, if you can just make sure that you leave the address with the pit bull, if that's not the other address that you had mentioned, with city staff. I'm sure someone will follow up with that for you. Mr. Campbell, we spoke earlier today, and I just want to re-extend my invitation to the City School Liaison Committee meeting. You are more than welcome to come and be added to our agenda and have an opportunity to speak with both groups. And we will certainly see what can be done, because that is a very unsafe situation for children to be crossing. The other thing I wanted to talk about was last Wednesday we had our last and final council lunch. The city members of the city staff joined us. We had the city manager, Phil Carlott, Chief Van Loo, and actually I saw several members of the fire department wandering around shopping, and I just wanted to say thank you to all of them. We were down at the farmers market, and we had an opportunity to meet with a lot of people. Ms. Buck and Ms. Davis were there popping popcorn and handing it out, and we just had it was a really nice time. It was a really nice time just to get out and meet with people. And the farmers market, the response I got from them was very positive, and I was invited back again to do it next year. So thank you all very much for participating in that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few announcements and congratulations. 1 Week, 1 Street, they're having a ribbon cutting ceremony. They recently established a neighborhood park there on Hill Street, and that's Saturday, October 4th at 2 p.m. I'd like to congratulate Heritage Square for winning a $1,000 grant and their contribution of over $2,200 to pretty much self-fund and upgrade lights in their park in that area. It's a great example of taking personal ownership of your neighborhood. Just a quick comment about the diversity issue that has been happening. And from my vantage point, I guess we need to try our best to keep our conversation constructive. It has been constructive. The conversations I sat in with on both sides, NAACP as well as the city, with the mayor as well as with our city manager. I believe our city manager has been pretty responsive to this issue, and he's been open to suggestions, and it appears that he's been implementing some of those suggestions. I'm just a little concerned that this banter back and forth over social media has taken away the positive steps that has been happening so far. Obviously, we're not there yet. It took some time for us to get here, but I believe our city manager has been shown that he's been responsive and kept this issue in perspective to an extent. No one has made this a black and white issue until it got to the social media. Even the city manager says that this is an issue with our city. For example, there's no one on the police force that speaks Spanish, which is a danger to our Hispanic community. And we're also very underrepresented as far as our women on the police force. This is not a local issue, but a national issue, and I just ask that we maintain a constructive conversation between all parties. And as I said, we're moving forward. There's 4 recent hires, Hispanic male, African American male, and 2 women. So those are our steps forward. I guess I would like to piggyback on what Mr. Campbell was saying. I went there just to get an idea of what the kids are looking at and what their options. Either they can walk, maybe a half mile, close to a mile to Finley, or they can walk down to Veterans Park. So obviously, and we have a big blockade there as far as the catwalk. So as a kid, obviously you're going to take the shorter route. I just think that that's a conversation that the city and the school system should have in order to protect our kids and to make them safe. Thank you for our public speakers. I agree with you totally, Ms. Weiss. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. I believe that we can ask more from our landlords. It's about 50% of our housing stock. Many of our landlords are great business owners. There's just a few that takes away from the positive that our good landlords are doing. So I'm all for that. That's all I have. Thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I like to echo the comments of Councilman Tibbs about keeping the dialogue positive, because he's right. That's the only way we're going to move forward on this issue. I am concerned, too, somewhat with the reporting that occurs that doesn't point out very effectively that when you are losing employees at the rate we have lost them over the last 30 years, it's very hard to fill a lot of positions to the way some people would like it. We definitely need to move forward with the improvement in all our departments that don't have a relatively employment that reflects our community, but we've lost several hundred employees in the last 30 years. Starting with, quite bluntly, I'm going to go back to something that's been on my mind since I've been on this council, and that's the tax cap. All the people that are voting and have voted to keep the tax cap are the ones, at least in my mind, who want to insist on changing things that we can't change when we don't have the ability to hire the new people we need to hire. This city needs new employees. We need people who can trim trees. We have trees that aren't being trimmed. We need people who can maintain the roads. We have roads that aren't being maintained. We need people who can take care of the cemeteries. We don't have them. Until we have the funds to do these things, we will be scraping along, trying to get the best employees we can and trying to do a hiring of minorities, but we're not hiring much of anybody. So it's very hard to do what we're being asked to do if no one wants to face the fact that there's a financial issue here. And the tax cap is not the only thing. We all know that. Part of it is that the state has been taking or not giving us the revenue sharing that they've been given in past years. That's millions of dollars, and that's a huge thing. That's not something we control. That's something your legislatures, our citizens' legislatures can do something about. But who's contacted their legislature and said, where is the revenue sharing for our city? Saginaw needs it. All these communities do. But we aren't getting it. That's millions of dollars that we could use to do exactly what people are asking us to do, and no one's going to the source of the problem. If you want to see minority hiring, we have to be hiring. And we have to be hiring enough employees to make it effective. We want to do that. So you need to do your part. Help us get rid of the tax cap. Contact your legislatures. Tell them they need to do something about revenue sharing. They're the ones that control that purse, not us. If we have the funds, we will do what you want. Our manager's doing everything he can within the financial constraints that exist. It's a problem we all face, but it's a problem that takes everybody's participation to help us overcome. Not just this council. We can't do it if we don't have the funds. Not just the administration if they don't have the funds. So either you're willing to help us or you're not. And if you're not, I'm asking you to not ask us to do the impossible. Thanks to our speakers. It's always good to hear those participants willing to speak out, to address council, and to bring up issues that are important. The idea of the Northwest Neighborhood Association doing the work there is important. That is definitely improving in that area, and I appreciate everything your association, Mr. Campbell, are doing, and Duperrin, make sure I pronounce that right. Thank you, if they're still here, for your neighborhood assistance and being a good neighbor. That's what it's going to take for all of us. So with that, I have nothing further. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Law.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, citizens of Saginaw, and I'd like to thank all the speakers that came out to speak this afternoon. And I have a few comments, too, about that catwalk. I would like to know who's responsible, for maintaining it, repairing it. The city's part of that, or is it the school board? I don't know. But we do need to find out to make sure, we can get something done, because those kids should not be walking through that fence across their tracks. It seems like we'd be liable for that, too, if someone's going to get hurt. So I think we better get on that quick and in a hurry. It seems like the question of the 19th, 20th, and 21st century has always been about jobs and justice and equality. And we talk about that here in the City Hall chambers here in the city of Saginaw about jobs and some justice too. What comes out of it when some people think there's not enough people hired to reflect the city. And I think it is a problem, and I think we can do better. We can always say there's nobody qualified. And I don't believe that. I don't know if we look for people that's qualified sometime. We need to go out and look for people to fill job positions. Whenever we need a city manager or another department head to come and fill it, we spend money to go find those people to come here and work for us. Why we can't do the same thing about getting citizens to come here and work for us? That reflects, the makeup of the city. I think it's a wise thing to do. I think it'll be money well spent. Because when we get sued for issues that relate to that, that's money that's spent too. Sometimes you're going to pay in the front end or pay in the back end. You're going to pay eventually. And it's always good to hear about people coming to the city and investing money in the city for jobs and stuff like that. But if we don't try to get the citizens of the city of Saginaw some help, jobs, justice, and some equality, then we're going to keep on having these same issues that we have about crime. You got on one end, you got the Downtown Development Authority is trying to get jobs in the city of Saginaw, but then people don't want to bring some jobs here when you got another element that's tearing it all down at the same time. So I think that we need to try our best to fill the void of that element and try to bring them up to pace. And we can do that by trying to get some jobs and try to make the city look like the rest of the city looks as far as employment is concerned. So I think we can do a better job at recruiting people for those police and fire department jobs. I think we can do a hell of a better job than that. You know, I was reading an article in the Detroit Free Press today, and it was talking about people being employed, but they're underemployed. We got people now that's employed in the same industries that send people to college, and now they send 2 or 3 kids to college, and now if you got 2 or 3 kids, you qualify for food stamps. We used to send them to college, and now they're qualified for food stamps because they're making $12 an hour, maybe at Delphi or these other corporations where they used to make $25 an hour. You know, so I think got a lot to do, you know, what Mr. Clark was talking about it's calling our legislators and talking to them and asking them to pass legislation that's going to help our community out. But most of all, I think we got to look at the people and find out who voted to get those people in office in the first place. You know, we are responsible, but some people put them there in the first place. And then you don't like the policies that they do, and do you vote them out? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But I think the people that voted for those people should be the first ones to call them, because if somebody's not doing the right thing and I didn't put them in office, then I don't think they're going to listen to me. So I think that we do got a lot of citizens here that need to try to call those people up and see what they can do about helping the city getting some of that revenue back here in the state. I mean, we even had retirees got hit. The governor took out money out of retirement people, money that they had never paid taxes, and all of a sudden now we're paying taxes on it, you know. So, you know, we got a lot of work to do in the city of Saginaw. But I can say that things do look a hell of a lot better in the city of Saginaw. Downtown is looking good. This summer, all the events that went on downtown were just beautiful. We had all type of people from all over the community here in the city of Saginaw. I thought it was really nice to see that. So I think we're on the right path. We just got to continue to keep doing the right thing. I'd like to thank Mr. Campbell for coming here speaking today. I hope that we get that issue taken care of. So thank you. Thank you, man.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank everybody who did a presentation to echo on what Councilwoman Ben said. Please, the young lady with the pit bull, I know I've got a couple of them in my neighborhood doing the same thing. So I've got a Rockwilder, but I've got the sign. So I'm sure if you forward the information to our city manager, he'll get it to you. The other thing is I'd like to thank Mr. Campbell along with Miss Debbie for speaking. I just didn't hear the rest of your conversation. I wish I would. I wish we could have had time to hear it. I had the opportunity of going to Mission on the City's banquet on Saturday. It was a fabulous activity. The only bad part was that we didn't give them a resolution. The county was there. They had plenty of representatives giving them. So, city manager, Miss Debbie, I'd like to do a resolution for a mission in the city for Pastor Bradley's church, because they did have an excellent presentation and an excellent affair that went on Saturday. I don't have a whole lot to say tonight. I did make reference to the diversity, and I need to do this publicly. I'm not going to apologize because I don't think I said anything out of the norm, and I guess if you took it wrong, I apologize for you taking it wrong. I made a statement, and the statement said that we could end up like Ferguson. I didn't say we were going to be Ferguson. I said that if we're not careful. Now, the diversity thing is something that's dear, and it's always been dear to everybody in this room, I think. So I have to echo along with my other fellow council members. I'll watch what I'm going to be careful at how I direct that question from now on, because sometimes it can be misconstrued as being negative. But the bottom line is that I do support the millage. I do support the police department. And I just want to see us be the best we can be as relates to the city of Saginaw. Thank you.
Weiss, you aren't the first person to question the import of water. The answer is the custodian that usually does this is on vacation. So when you come back next week, you'll see Saginaw Spida sitting here in stainless steel container. I agree with you. I hate to do that. Little history lesson. Back in 2006, there was a need arose to produce additional funds for public safety. The proposal was put on the ballot for 6 mills, and that was approved. 5 years later, there was a need to renew that 6 mills, plus you, the voter, were asked to approve an additional 1.5, and you approved that. We're now at 7.5. We have a situation here. At the end of this coming year of 2015, that expires. So what would normally happen, next year we would go to the polls in November and ask for renewal. However, because the city changed their voting cycle from odd years to even years, saving us between $30,000 and $40,000, that negates the 2015 election. So what we're doing is putting that on the November ballot now. In November, you will be asked for a renewal, not an additional tax, a renewal. That will generate a little over $3 million. And to people who are a little leery as to where that $3 million goes, it goes only to public safety. It goes nowhere else. And that's mandated by the charter. We don't buy police cars or fire engines out of that $3 million. We don't support pensions out of that $3 million. That goes to keep boots in the street and keep the fire safe and the streets safe. So you're going to be asked for a renewal. A committee did a poll here the other day on 1,000 people by phone over a 48-hour span. The results were tremendous. 71% in favor of renewing the millage. So if you're under 29%, you lose that bet. It's an act we can't afford to ignore. I hate to think of what would happen if that millage was defeated. However, after listening to presentations on diversity here last week or 2 weeks ago on the police department, I did some research. It's all in here. I found numerous indications that the city has and is doing everything they possibly can, including mailing 34 pastors and churches indicating that there were vacancies, along with data as to how and where to proceed for application. So what's the problem? The problem is minorities are not interested in being police officers. And that's indicated by the number of people that show up at the police academy, which is the first step. This isn't on-the-job training. It's no different than you going to a cardiologist who's still doing his internship. I don't know what the answers are. Solution is difficult. The reason is simple. Those who speak of diversity, I challenge to get out and seek and mentor youth to get to the academy. Quit blaming the city, quit blaming the city council.
Thank you, Council.
This is something we have nothing to do. We have
Thank you,
no
Council.
control over it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all the council persons for speaking tonight. Also, would like to thank the speakers for coming to the meeting and voicing your opinion. Would like to also echo support for checking into that catwalk. I drive by there pretty much every day. I work in that area in our Arthur Eddy School, and it is very dangerous. You know, I saw kids walking through there this morning. You know, about 6:30, they catch the bus surrounding that area. They're waiting for the bus, and they're walking through that area, and it's dark. So, Mr. Manager, I know you did send us an update in terms of why it was being closed, but I would be very interested in knowing the parameters in terms of who's responsible and the collaboration that was mentioned, because that is a dangerous, dangerous area over there. I also like to make reference and give congratulations and a good job to Judge M.T. Thompson. There was a lot going on this weekend, and it's kind of hard to be at all these different locations, but as you see, council members were here and there. But Judge M.T. Thompson and his support group, who have been working on the Brothers Keepers program. It's a national program where Saginaw is going to receive and have received support in various ways, and I was very, very pleased and impressed to see just the widespread support. Councilman Tibbs was there at the meeting. We were at CAC. It was just tremendous to see the individuals who were in attendance from the city of Saginaw, county of Saginaw, and from outside of Saginaw, and talking about ways that we can bridge the gap from some of the things we've been talking about here today. You know, having mentors, working in the educational system, dealing with some of the institutional issues that may prevent or create barriers for individuals from moving forward. So I want to commend him and his team for a project well done, and that's just the beginning. There'll be other meetings that we'll be a part of. Also like to make reference to Pastor Lewis at Lewis Temple. He also had one judge and a couple of attorneys at his church working with citizens with expungement, individuals who have felonies on their record. There was a judge and a couple of attorneys working with the community to take them through the process and how to have those felonies expunged. That was a very well-attended event as well. That was on Saturday. I was able to leave that one meeting and go to the other meeting, but it was very well received. Also like to ask, and I did get some information from the streets department, but I don't want to say the wrong thing and get it wrong. I know we've been talking about street repairs, particularly the Lapeer, and the 19th Street area. So, Mr. Manager, if you would oblige Mr. Carwatt to come up and just kind of give some clarifying dates for that, I appreciate that during this time.
That's all right.
For him to,
Yes.
the streets?
Yes, we'll do that at the end.
Okay. Well, I'll take a stab at it, and you correct me if I'm wrong. We had for those folks who are interested in the Lapeer Street and the 19th Street between James and Lapeer, those two areas had been slated for repairs starting in September. But due to some funding shifting and reductions, those projects have been sort of moved back slightly. So Phil was able to articulate that process, but during that management update, he can kind of elaborate on that, because a lot of people are asking, Councilman O'Neill, it's September, what's going on with Lapeer and 19th Street? So as I shared that with you earlier this morning, so I appreciate the follow-up call on that and look forward to some information later. And with that, my colleagues, that's all I have for this evening. And Madam Clerk, we'll turn it back over to you.
That takes you to reports of manager.
Okay. We have an addition to the agenda that was out earlier. We have some representatives from the state of Michigan, and they'll be first to present in a few moments. I'm just going to go through a couple of items for council. But first, I would like to commend Councilwoman Bench on the meet and greet at the farmers market. I think that was a great opportunity for council members and staff to be out there. I know council members did it throughout the season, and this last Wednesday, city staff was there. I was pretty busy during that with people to talk to, so it was a great opportunity, and I hope that she does continue to do that next year as well. I know the community really appreciates that. The citywide meeting that our former Chief Lipe kind of started. We had them before, but they weren't as well attended as when Chief Lipe had done that, is being continued by our interim chief, Ruth, and the next one is this Thursday at 5:30, Holy Cross Lutheran Church, 600 Court Street, lasts till 7. So we're going to continue with the same format. Our firefighters and fire chief will be there, as well as scenic and our community officers to give their reports, just as we have been doing over the past few years. Another meeting that I would like to mention, particularly with of interest to council, and one of our co-chairs is here, and I think he is ending his co-chair with our upcoming meeting, but the ALPACT meeting resumes this Friday. That is for community engagement. It stands for Advocates and Leaders for Police and Community Trust. It's a group of civic leaders and law enforcement, including prosecution, as well as even Department of Justice participates. We have those meetings the last Friday of every month, and they're in various locations throughout the community, churches, schools, etc. We did have a council member attending those meetings. Previously, it was former Councilman Norman Braddock. So hopefully you all can consider, I'm not sure on the process. I think if you all selected someone to attend, you could have a representative attend. I don't believe Councilman Braddock has been attending since he stepped down, so it'd be great to have a council member. I go to those meetings. The police chief goes, and previous co-chairs were Lieutenant Marv Jenkins from the state police, and Mr. Carl Williams was our co-chair for the past year, and he's told me that is going to be changing. I think they had a term, but I'm sure he'll continue to help with that if he is needed. But it'd be great if we could have a council member participate in that, and if any of you want to talk to me later about the meeting, what we typically discuss, I'll be happy to do that. Very good. Very good, very good. The neighborhood associations are currently planning for arson watch activities for Angels Night and Halloween Night, so probably an opportunity to talk about that at the citywide meeting Thursday as well. We all know that those activities, arson watch, would not be successful without all of the input and help from the neighborhood associations. They're really our eyes and ears, so we really appreciate what they do. We'll continue to work with them and provide them any assistance that they'll need to make that successful. The catwalk that has been discussed, we are working on that. I know our city engineering department, as well as our public services director, Mr. Carwatt, has been working with the schools. I know at last update I had from him, he was attempting to contact the superintendent to talk about what could be done. The issue with the catwalk is, I believe it's city-owned. It was built a number of years ago. The school was closed, which essentially eliminated the need for the catwalk. When the school district decided to reopen the school for this year, we were contacted by, I think it was Judge Thompson, had asked us if we could do an analysis on the catwalk to see if it was safe. We did hire an engineering firm, the city paid for that, and the report that we got back was that it was not safe. It did remain open, however, I had our city attorney review that and was advised that it did need to be closed because it is not safe. The cost for repair to that is, I believe, in the neighborhood of $60,000 to $70,000, which would be a general fund expense and is currently not funded. So we do have, I believe, an obligation to provide a safe route to school for the kids. So the last thing we were looking at is seeing what type of route could be mapped out and signed out for the children and the parents. We can look at the area. I have been told that the kids have pulled the fence apart, and that's where they typically cross. Another option that we can look at is, and I know Mr. Karwatz looked at that, perhaps he can give a brief update on that too when he talks about the street. But I don't believe there is a sidewalk crossing at that rail crossing, so perhaps that could be installed and then we could have a safety to help cross there. So there's a number of things that we're looking at, and we will work with the school on that issue and continue to. A couple of educational institutions I want to briefly update council with. Last Wednesday, Delta College gave a presentation to the joint subcommittee, appropriations committee for the State House and Senate for their project for the Saginaw Center. That's somewhat different than it's operated in the past. As I updated you before, the project would need to get on that state appropriations list before they'll have the appropriate amount of funding for that, and the chair of that committee has decided he would like to hear presentations from all, I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 schools that have applied for that. The governor has already ranked his list and submitted that to the legislature. So Delta College went last week on Wednesday to give their presentation. I went to support them, and also former state representative Ken Horn was there and provide an additional letter, as did the Chamber of Commerce and Saginaw Future. So if it's another issue that I think if we have our community leaders contacting our state representatives and state senators and other ones you may know, I think telling them how much the city supports that project, I think that can help move along in the process. And I'm sure you all received, I believe, an update that Ms. Buck sent out. The Central Michigan University approved the St. Mary's site for the College of Medicine, so that's something that we've been waiting for quite some time. So we're happy that's done, and I think that's the next huge step for the downtown area. The students will be here next summer, I think, in 15 at the Covenant campus. So the sooner that side can be built, we'll have students on both sides of the river. So I think that's pretty exciting for the downtown area as well. I have received a few questions, and I gave an update at the neighborhood association meeting last week on our police chief. The position is currently posted. The question that I get most often is the community portion, which I talked about here, so thought I would give council an update in case you get that question. I know I've been contacted by several people who would like to be on that committee, and obviously we can't have a committee of 30 or 40 people. That committee will be limited to probably 6 or 7 individuals from various groups that I've identified, and I believe I've talked to the mayor and mayor pro tem about this. I've asked 4 people to serve on that already, representing various one of our major businesses in the city, religious clergy members, and 2 minority representative groups, and there will be a few more people that I will be asking. Groups that are not going to have members on that committee, I think will have appropriate input to these various groups to be able to submit questions or provide their input to those individuals. I think everyone that I'm selecting or offering is very open and active in various groups, and I think are very approachable by various members of the community. So I think that's a good way to have community input. It's not something that the city has to do by charter or by any previous procedures. It's something new that we're doing. I think it's a good opportunity, and I think this is the best way to handle that community input. We need to have a professional search. Even with the committee, the questions will have to be reviewed by our city attorney as well as myself to make sure that we're asking appropriate questions and asking everyone the same questions. So if you get any questions about that, I'm sure you have or may have, but I hope that helps you. And if you have any more questions about it, please feel free to contact me. And we'll have a few presentations later, but regarding different ways to outreach. But first, I'm going to have our representatives from the state of Michigan come up and give their presentation. The city applied for and was selected as a redevelopment ready community. So this is one of the requirements of that selection, and I'll let them take over and let you know what that actually means.
Rig Trank with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and I oversee and manage the Redevelopment Ready Communities program and team at the MEDC. And so, as the city manager said, I'm going to give a brief overview of the program. My colleague Nate Scramlin is here. He's going to co-present on the best practices, which I believe you have received. We're going to touch upon those, and then we'll take any questions you may have at the end. I'm not going to read that slide, but the Redevelopment Ready Communities program, at its core, it's about having communities have a solid base, foundation, framework which to operate from when it comes to seizing and acting upon opportunities that are presented to the community, whether those are through real estate development deals, business attraction or expansion, just that there is a solid base there which to operate from. The Redevelopment Ready Communities program is a technical assistance tool for communities. It's really an in-depth review of your planning, zoning, and development policies, procedures, and practices. And it's really a melding of your traditional planning when you think about your processes, your site plan approvals, and your traditional economic development, shovels in the ground, private investment. It's really melding these two personalities together. And ultimately, it's a certification. Communities that do go through the program, we measure you against the best practices that, again, my colleague Nate is going to go through with you. And a community that achieves all those requirements within there can be certified as a redevelopment-ready community. Something that RRC is not, it's not necessarily easy. This certification is set up to give communities a competitive edge when it comes to the state of Michigan helping to promote and market and tell your story. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all for communities. The required criteria are what they are. It's on the community to demonstrate to us how you're accomplishing those. And it's definitely not a critique of individual staff work. Again, it's focused on your policies, your priorities. Some of it is looking at your internal documentation. So when you have staff turnover, someone retires, someone leaves, does business continue as usual? Or is there a hiccup in that process because that person who walked out the door is taking knowledge with them out the door? So it's looking at succession planning and documenting of internal processes. Besides having received an application from the City of Saginaw, any of the things we're going to talk about tonight are not based on knowledge of what you are already doing. You're obviously already doing some great things, and that's why your application scored so well, because it was a competitive process. We had over 65 communities during the second application round put in applications, and then we took the top 17 scoring. So you should be commended on some of the great things you are already doing here in Saginaw. RRC is definitely not a rubber stamp. This is not a rubber stamp for development, that any development is good. It's more of, again, having your good processes and policies in place and being able to say no to things that don't help fulfill the goals and objectives of the City of Saginaw. Just to give you a brief overview or history, this program really came out of the Michigan Land Use Leadership Council back in 2003. big report on current land use trends and gave recommendations of how to curb some of those trends into the future. It was more about balancing the sprawl that was going on in all our suburban areas, really in our disinvestment in our urban cores. And so the Michigan Suburbs Alliance took a recommendation out of that report and put together a group of public and private sector individuals and piloted the Redevelopment Ready Communities program on a very small scale down in Southeast Michigan in 2005. The MEDC, with the assistance of our State Housing Development Authority, MISHDA, purchased this program to take it statewide to communities. The end of 2011, we went live with it in 2012. A brief overview. Applications were submitted. We scored those. Again, the top scoring applications, we now, to really formally engage in the process, we do this kickoff presentation, because it's one thing to have a staff person or a couple of staff people that see value in the program, but it's another thing to have a bigger buy-in from the city, that they see value in having a third party review your plans, your policies, and your procedures. What we're really looking at, again, what's your vision? What are the fundamental things you have in place to get there? And are you really achieving the results with your policies and some of your initiatives that you have set forth? It's looking at removing waste in your processes. Do you have unnecessary touches that are adding time? And we all know time is money. And that's not just time is money for a developer or a business owner. That's time and staff time and capacity at the city level as well. Another thing that this program is not just about your big developer or your big business. This is about your small businesses, your entrepreneurs, your average citizen that would like to add a shed or a possible front porch or a deck. They need to be able to navigate through your zoning regulations and codes as well. After this kickoff presentation, we do require for buy-in that this council passes or adopts a resolution of support to proceed with the evaluation. There's also a memorandum of understanding to be signed, just kind of bullet pointing out what you can expect from us, what we expect from you. This is a no-cost, voluntary program. The only cost is staff time to exchange information, answer questions, and point us in the direction of information. We ask that communities identify a contact person. Right now, we've been working with the city manager. Complete our pre-evaluation checklist. That's just giving us your documentation of all the things you're already doing. Attend our RRC best practice trainings. We are going to be holding trainings on our best practices, a deeper dive into each one. Our closest training is going to be in Flint, coming up October 1st and 2nd. We invite city staff, any of your boards and commissions, to attend those trainings free of charge. We'll provide the registration link to the city manager as well as a registration code. So we ask that you engage so that you understand what you are being measured on, where you're measuring up, and then when we come back to report out to this council on the findings of that evaluation, you are engaged and you're not like, you don't think, oh yeah, we heard a presentation couple months ago. I remember that. But you really are already understanding, already identifying low-hanging fruit of things you might not be doing and starting to work on those things. We're asking that the city manager or another contact person provide you with monthly updates of where you are. So whether that's an email, a formal report out, just keeping you up to date of where the city is going through with this process. We are scheduling our evaluations in the order of these kickoffs. If you do adopt the resolution and decide you do want to proceed, out of the 17, this is the 10th kickoff that I'm doing. And so just to give you an idea of where you are in the order right now. The report of findings, when you receive that, we really color-coded and given a scorecard. Green, you're hitting that required criteria. Yellow, there's some elements there, but there's still some work to do. Red, there's something that needs to be developed or implemented, something that's missing. This is our RRC Advisory Council. We do not claim to be the experts in all of this. This is our private and public sector makeup that really this council meets. They give us great input on those best practices. They look at our evaluations, especially some of them have probably worked with your community or worked with communities like yours. And so they really point us in the direction of things that are being successful other places. Sometimes there are resources or trainings that they know of. They also assist us with providing technical assistance to the communities we're working with. As you can see, we have different sized communities. We have the State Housing Development Authority, Wayne State University, Ingham and Grand Traverse County, the Michigan Municipal League, the Michigan Association of Planning. LEAP is our Lansing Economic Area Partnership. I'm happy to announce we actually are going to be adding a member from Saginaw Future is going to be joining our advisory council as well. And then Carlisle Wortman's a large planning firm. And then we have a handful of private sector developers, Huntington Bank. And so we're getting both, again, that public and private view. So what does the public need? What does the private sector need? And something we're coming up with is that both sides are finding value in. These are our 6 best practices. Nate is briefly going to go through these, and then I'm just going to wrap it up at the end.
Good evening, council members. So Jen said earlier, the RC program is really that, provides that solid base. So that solid base is really steeped in these 6 best practices that we've developed along with that advisory council that she talked about earlier. So the first best practice really circles around your community plans and your outreach. Most importantly, most likely, is the master plan, redevelopment plan, capital improvements plan. Really what we're looking for here is to ensure that you're in compliance with state law. We do provide examples of these. They're on our website now, of like the capital improvements plan, as well as the public participation plan. We have the best practices. We also have guides on developing those plans. So you must have a downtown plan that could be found within a portion of your master plan. It doesn't have to be a specific set-aside plan, but there must be something for that downtown area. Second best practice is the zoning regulations. Really what we're looking for here is to ensure that your master plan is talking to your zoning ordinance. Many communities, will update a master plan and have this wonderful vision of what they want to do with their community, and then in reality their zoning ordinance technically doesn't allow them to do that. So we just want to make sure those 2 things are communicating. You have flexibility in your zoning. And are your regulations accessible and user-friendly? Jen talked about earlier about, any regular citizen that was considering doing some improvements to their home may need to navigate that process as well. So you will be tasked with demonstrating specifically, how you're meeting this criteria. The third best practice is the development review process. Really what we're looking for here is a clear, concise process. Specifically, you'll see here Ann Arbor's guide that they have on their website. So, any developer could look at their website and kind of understand what they're up against and what they need to do to get through the process. We also want to make sure that that process is very well defined internally as well. Do you have an intake professional who knows the process? So if somebody just walks in on any given day and says, I'm interested in doing some redevelopment here in Saginaw, how do I do that? That person, are they available to give them that information? Jen talked about, time is money. Obviously, with developers, we know time is money, but time is money as well in staff review. We like the idea of a joint review team. Get everybody together that needs to look at these developments. Your fire department, your police department, obviously your planning commission, your staff planner. Get everybody together and look at this development holistically. The fourth best practice is considering recruitment and education. How is your community keeping your decision makers fresh and knowledgeable? Do you have orientations for new elected officials, for appointees, for staff? Do you have dedicated funds for training those folks, if available? We like the idea, in Livingston County, you'll see they actually do a simple brown bag lunch where they'll bring in somebody with a new topic surrounding development or anything, concerning city business. And, they do a brown bag lunch, they bring in a speaker, and staff can just sit and learn about that particular process. The fifth best practice surrounding the redevelopment-ready sites, so you will actually select sites that you've decided are redevelopment-ready. We're looking to instill a more proactive approach to development rather than reactive. So do you have a specific process up front to identify those sites, gather some input publicly, staff, council members, everybody is getting that input up front. What does the community really want to see on those sites? Then you take that information and you market that to developers. So, like I said, we'll be looking for an establishment of that process. The last best practice is, this gets into that process that I'm talking about. So you look at the site, you identify what you want there, you prioritize those, and you package them for those developers. The last best practice is surrounding community prosperity. Really, do you have an identified economic development strategy? Do you have an an identified marketing strategy? And have you set action steps of how to bring that type of prosperity to fruition? So those are, in a nutshell, the 6 best practices. I'm going to hand it back over to Jen.
So Nate touched upon a lot of plans, your planning, your strategies. And one thing with RRC that we're looking at is that we're not asking you to we hear communities all the time, we're planned out. We have all these great plans, they sit on shelves. We're looking to make sure that your plans and your strategies are actionable documents, that they're living documents, that they identify implementation steps of how you're going to accomplish what your goal is, how you want to get to what you're foreseeing is a good objective, that they're tasking an individual or a group, your planning commission, another board or commission, as overseeing and heading the charge on that, and that they're benchmarked so that periodically, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, you're checking back in. Where are we? What have we accomplished? Have the markets changed? Things change all the time. Do we need to stop and readjust and start down a different path? Another thing with RRC that we're trying to help communities do is really how do you make those hard decisions of where you strategically focus your limited resources. We all know that sprinkling some money here, sprinkling a little here, that doesn't work. That may put a Band-Aid on something, but that's not going to make the type of change, the long-term sustainable changes that need to be made. So you need to have a process in place that helps you identify where you start and then where do you go next. We talk a lot about community engagement. Just sitting here this evening, I'm listening to all the community engagement that goes on, and that's so important that you're getting that input. And then how do you consider and what do you do with that input? And how do you turn around and report back out your next steps so that people know when they're showing up and their voices are being heard, that it doesn't necessarily mean you're acting upon every single one of that, recommendations or that input. That's not possible. But that they were heard, that their voice was considered, and here's what we're doing next. How do you identify ways to involve stakeholders that aren't showing up to those meetings, but that you really do need their input? And so the public participation plan, that's not anything that's mandated by law. Yes, it's mandated that you have public participation, that you do a public posting. But how many people show up to things because of a public posting in the newspaper? You need to be using a little bit more innovative ways to engage in your community and your stakeholders. And again, that plan can be, the City of East Lansing has a very thorough 19-page document, or it can be a 3 to 4 page document. It just needs to identify the ways you engage, the techniques you'll use, and how you have that feedback loop. Another thing we focus on is customer service. The first time I walked into one of the communities we've been engaged with, I walked in City Hall, long municipal desk, lots of desks and departments behind that. It was about 10 after 11. I could see the gentleman I needed to meet with was in a back office, and all of a sudden everyone there had their heads down. And I'm not saying that they weren't working, but no one acknowledged me, no one said just a second, and I just stood there. Not knowing who I was, who I could have been representing. Maybe I was there to look at a site, And if the community next door has those same type of sites and offer some of the same resources or incentives, why wouldn't I walk next door if they're welcoming and engaging me the minute I walk in the door? And so that those perception. Our communities are doing a lot of good work, but they have to fight those perceptions that they've been known for years, whether it's crime, whether it's, schools. These are perceptions you need to overcome as you're starting to make changes. And so how can we help you celebrate and market those successes that you are having and tell your story? The last thing, the website and access to information. A lot of people, the typical 8 to 5 is not anymore. People need to be doing upfront homework and accessing information before they walk through your door. As you know, the state of Michigan does a lot with trying to recruit and attract businesses across the country and across the world. And they need to be able to get some information because they're operating on not the same business hours as us all the time. Again, certification ultimately is about being open for business. It's about removing barriers to development, but not just big real estate, big business development. Technical assistance, I mentioned the best practice training series. We do have some resource guides we put together for communities that need to put a public participation plan together or capital improvements plan together. And so these are the things that we're trying to help communities as we are coming across what really needs to get done. Next steps, sign the MOU, adopt a resolution of support, provide that pre-evaluation information, and then, like I said, be reviewing those best practices, understanding what you're being measured to, and engage in those training series if you're able to. This is just a quick look at the 31 communities that we're formally engaged with at this time, are formally evaluating. We are informally engaged with a whole host of other communities across the state who are coming to the trainings, who are using our self-evaluation documents online and already measuring and working on elements. You're welcome. Any questions?
And Nate, you did a great job. Council members, questions or comments? Councilman Coloris.
Thank you for your presentation, and this appears to have a lot of potential, and I wish you luck. The first question I have, I think you answered. Are you or you expect to be working with Saginaw Futures? I thought you mentioned it.
Yes. We're actually, yes, Saginaw Future has been identified as a stakeholder to assist us with the evaluation of the city of Saginaw. But we're also adding Saginaw Future as an advisory council member. And then kind of their counterpart on the other side of the state, we're adding Southwest Michigan First to our advisory council as well.
Thank you. That's one of our valuable assets. And not to belay the situation, but on page 16, under evaluation criteria, community dedicating sources of funding for training. And you talk about a training budget allotted for elected and appointed officials and staff.
So
what would you guesstimate the cost of that training would be?
So we're not looking for a certain amount of money. We're looking that the city values training and that there's some source of funding for someone or an individual, whether it's the city manager or another staff or a certain individual on the council, to receive some information and training and then to bring it back and share it with the other staff or boards and commissions. So we're not putting a dollar amount, we're just looking that you value training and see the importance of people being trained and up to date.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Councilman Clark.
Mr. Mayor. I almost don't know where to begin because I'm going to throw not only cold water, I'm going to throw ice water on this. To me, first of all, how much cash is this going to bring in from the state to the city?
So this is not about putting a dollar amount.
All right.
This is about you having a solid foundation. So when those opportunities that will bring tax dollars into the state, that you can, in a timely and transparent manner, act upon those opportunities.
The answer is no cash. That will be brought in by this program from the state, correct?
If you want me to draw a solid line to a dollar amount, then no. But
The state won't give us any money if we do this, number one. True?
well, this puts you in a better opportunity when you come to the state for dollars.
I understand where you're coming from, but I told you, I'm throwing ice water on this, and I'm doing it for a reason. The state isn't going to give us any money if we do this, true?
No,
All right.
because this program is about us helping you help yourself.
Well, first of all, you're assuming we need it. So let's start there.
I'm assuming that because someone from the city applied to the program.
I understand that, number one. Number two, how many businesses will you say this will bring us in? You're saying, what you're going to say is this
I'm glad
opens
you
us
asked
up.
me that, because
No,
tonight
fine, go ahead.
there was a lot of talk about talent in the schools. And so what we're going to be looking at is how are you collaborating with your partners here at the city and in your region, and how are you focused on your downtown and your core? Because if you don't have a vibrant, thriving place where people want to be and talent wants to be, whether that's local talent or you're having to attract talent, you're not going to attract businesses. And businesses that are here are not going to be able to grow if they can't find the talent to fill the jobs.
What bothers me is it's almost like there's an assumption that we don't know these things. The city of Saginaw has encouraged, through all its hard work, its own hard work, probably over $200 million worth of investment in the city of Saginaw in the last 10 years. People don't realize how significant that is, but it's huge. And we have downtown that is coming back alive through mostly the efforts of the city working with developers.
Yes.
We're doing these things. To what we have here is to me, it's another level of bureaucracy on top of what we're already doing. I've been watching this for years, and we are doing virtually everything you've talked about. And I know you're saying you'll give us measures, you'll give us best practices, you'll give us a certification. What I want is the money from the state that they've taken away through the revenue sharing. That's what I want.
So
back.
I can't address the revenue sharing.
You can or can't?
I cannot address
that's
the
my
revenue
point.
sharing.
I understand
But I can
that.
tell you that it's great to hear that you're telling me you're already doing so many of these things. That will make our evaluation that much more efficient and quick. And then what we want to do is help market all the great things you're doing to make you more attractive to those those limited dollars that your surrounding regions, your surrounding municipalities are all competing for.
Well, great. Why hasn't the state been doing this already? I mean, we're doing all these things that we're doing, and we've been fighting tooth and nail to do these things. We've reinvented the city administration with less people by far, greatly because of the state revenue reductions. So we've had to do it ourselves. We've had to fight to get where we are, and we're making progress. Yet I see this come in, and basically it's saying you're going to task us to do things. We don't have the money to be tasked to
So
do
that's why
things.
we do this kickoff presentation. It's up to you as the council and the city to see value in the third party, review of what you're doing and our assistance in helping you get certified. You may not see value in that. And if you don't, that's great, because I don't want to waste your time, and I definitely don't want you to waste our time. We have quite a pipeline of communities to work with. And so that's why we do this kickoff, to allow you to ask questions, to make sure that there is value in it for the city
And
before
I
you
appreciate
proceed.
that you're giving us that opportunity, and
And I can't
I'm gonna
speak
have
to
a
the
lot more
past about why this hasn't been done in the past. The opportunity is here now, and it's whether you take advantage of it or you continue doing what you're doing and making the strides forward in the great stuff that you're doing. So this is just technical assistance in moving forward.
If it isn't asking us to spend time our staff doesn't have, if it doesn't ask us to be tasked to do things, if it doesn't say we want you to commit money, and I know you're saying we're not saying a specific amount, but you are saying we want things committed.
Well, you'll have
then
to ask
fine.
your staff if they have the time to stop and kind of audit the processes that you've been doing for years. Or is it, this is just the way we've always done things, and so we'll continue to do that way. Most communities don't have that time to stop and kind of do an internal audit of their processes. And so that's what this program is offering.
Thank you.
Summer, so it was before the previous city manager left, but in discussions with our previous manager and as well as our previous development staff, the development department was asked to apply for this, I believe, because I think we have done a good job of getting new development in the city, as Councilman Clark points out. with assistance from some partners and some organizations that we pay. However, we have had in the past developers that have invested money in the city but have come to the city manager after working with our development department saying, hey, this wasn't the easiest or most efficient process. We want to invest in the city of Saginaw. We like the way that the council helps us invest, in the way that the city administration guides us through the process, but we don't believe that it's the most efficient process. So I believe that we did apply for this, so city administration asked the state if we could be a part of this, and that I believe is the reason why. I think we've been doing a good job of getting businesses in, as Councilman Clark points out. You can look to downtown and see that, but can we improve our process? And the state at MEDC is aware that we have reduced our staffing because they started working with one person, and now I'm their email contact. So hopefully we can help streamline our process and make it easier for investors, and they can help guide us in that way. And I know that they'll probably be working a lot with Mr. Miller back there as a city representative as well, because in the last budget process you all approved putting their funding back to where it was several years ago, and they have been offering additional help. So I don't believe it will be too burdensome to our staff, and we'll probably have to shift some staff around as I think we will for all of our development processes. But we did ask them to come in, and MEDC has been very, very helpful in the past with our developments. You might recognize Nate because he was on the cover of the Saginaw Future update a few months ago. He was the one that helped us with the Bancroft development, which did bring in $1 million to a downtown development. They were generated close to 20% of that development's expense. So as this process goes on, we'll bring further information, and I know Councilman Clark will contact me if he has additional input on this, and any of you are welcome to do so as well.
Are there any questions from council? Councilwoman Moore?
Maybe I overlooked it, but is this a free service, just time and energy from the staff?
Yes. A couple of the other things that we've provided some of the communities we're working with is we've done some developer matchmaking events where we bring a group of developers that are not necessarily already working in Saginaw. We've been doing a 2-hour event. The city has an hour to showcase its opportunities. We go on a tour. So that's the city, or that's the state, the MEDC, being proactive in trying to help market you as well. Certified communities, to get certification, you have to package at least one site. We'll help market up to 3 of those sites at a time. And as one certification, once you achieve it, is good for 3 years. As one of those sites gets turned over, you package another one. That's a continuous cycle. So those are some of the assistance that I know there's not a dollar amount tied to that, but those are some of the things that we're trying to assist as part of certification as well.
So what cities have been approved for this? What have you done to help them out?
I'm glad you asked. We just had our first 2 certifications last week. The city of Roseville down in Macomb County. If you're familiar, they're a suburb of Detroit and a very built out community focused on manufacturing. And then also the city of Allegan, which is the county seat over in Allegan County on the west side of the state. Those are just, like I said, those were just certified last week. We are helping to market their package sites. We provided them with development feasibility studies of particular sites in their downtown that they had identified as priority redevelopment. And then we, in Allegan, hosted one of those developer matchmaking events that I said. We're also working with our partners, the Michigan Municipal League, the Michigan Association of Planning. As I speak to you, Council, I spend a lot of time speaking to the private sector and developers because they need to understand what it means and what a community has gone through to achieve this certification, or why even do it if the private sector is not going to respond to that. And so, yeah, that is another thing, making sure the private sector understands who's been certified and what that signals and why, if they haven't already done so, should be looking to do their next project there.
So this is the Michigan Economic Development Director. This is part of his, like a wing off
Mike,
of the
are you
economic
talking-
development?
Are you talking about Mike Finney, our president and CEO?
Yes.
So yes, we report under Mike Finney.
And it's like if the cities, any of the cities want to get any money from Michigan Economic Development, then we're going to have to be certified to
No,
get this?
no, not at all.
Okay.
It does put you as a priority for funding. So if we did have, say, 2 applications for the same type of funding, and it came down to we could only fund one, and one was in a certified community and one wasn't, the funding would go to the certified community. All other things equal.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Well, Jennifer, thank you, and Nate for coming. I will just add my comments. Being a member of the board of Michigan Municipal League, I was kind of aware of this, again, like you said, over a year ago. And I think it's very important that we realize a lot of the things we've accomplished have been a result of us forging strong relationships with MISTA, HUD, and for example, Cities of Promise. Years ago, we were one of the 8 cities, and Dr. Thorns was here at the time, and we did just a large amount of work and build a lot of relationships that I think that are actually benefiting us even now today. So I see this as an opportunity for us, as you said, to target our approach, refine our approach, and I think it's a great economic development tool for us to position ourselves in a position when those other businesses are looking around the state, and you have a city like Saginaw who have the mechanism to package an area or some parcels of property to say, hey, this property is ready for whatever development you're looking for. That puts us ahead of the game. So I think it's a great opportunity. I want to thank you guys for taking the time, and also to the city manager for continuing the process, because I know it's been over a year. They've been working on this, and so I think it's a great tool for us, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer and Nate. I guess right now, since the mayor pro tem had asked if Mr. Carwatt could come up and address the streets funding issue.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I guess at this time, seeing as I've been called up, I'll just take a quick opportunity to let everybody know that Remington from Michigan to Mason is due to be completed October 2nd, and Genesee from Harold to Hess is due to be completed October 8th. So before I get into some of the other stuff, I just wanted to give you that information. As far as the funding and the Lapeer Street, 19th Street, it'd be really long to explain the funding to it, but what that means to the projects is not too much. We had to push some stuff back, but when we set these projects up, 19th and Lapeer, a portion of the projects were federally aid funded, and you guys have heard me for years come up in here and say that out of the 300 miles of road, we only have about 90 of them that actually can receive federal funds because they're federal aid eligible. Well, 19th between Lapeer and Janes is federal aid eligible, meaning if we can do a project, we only have to pay 20 cents on the dollar for that project. The federal government will pay 80 cents on the dollar. And also Lapeer from 19th to the west or to the south Vets Memorial Parkway is federally aid eligible. The piece of that project that isn't federal aid eligible is Lapeer from 19th to the east city limits. So when we set this project up, we had a multitude of funding, and how can we fund it? And it was kind of, we had to modify the tip, because any projects with federal aid have to go through our MPO, have to be placed on a tip, and that's a lengthy process. That's what put us here today, several months behind the original request. With that all said, 19th Street from Lapeer to the east city limits, the bid opening on that is going to be tomorrow. And we're hoping to have that all approved by the purchasing, get the insurance and the bonds in place, bring that to the October 6th meeting with a construction start date of October 13th this year, this fall. So that's that portion of it. The other piece that has to go through the MDOT process, because there's federal aid funds, is due to be bid in the next month or two, and then we're going to have a spring start on that. So 19th from Lapeer to the east city limits is proposed to start October 13th, and it's about a 5-week construction schedule. So hopefully that'll be all done this fall. 19th from Lapeer West to South Vets Parkway, and Lapeer from 19th to Janes will be started in April of 14 and hopefully completed in April of 15 and hopefully completed in June of 15. So that's what's going on with that. If there's any questions, I don't know.
One of those big hard street signs and let them people know so they don't come and name his house. I mean, because the road is terrible. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. I'm really ashamed, you know, to live in the city of Saginaw and that all those cars coming in off the highway and it looks that bad. Then you got a city council person to live a half a block away from there. And
Well, as you've seen in a prior presentation, over 90-some% of all of our 300 miles of road are, you know, on a Paiser rating of 1 to 10, 2 or less, meaning, and that's more of a state level. The city, no general fund money of the city's dollar ever goes into the streets. It's just not available. So all we can use is our gas and weight funds, and as long as them formulas are continue to be broke, and the state of Michigan is rated dead last out of all 50 states in road funding, the roads are going to continue to deteriorate. So, I mean, I can spend $100 million a year as easy as I can spend $1 million. I just don't get the $100 million.
so you saying we the worst state out of the 50
State of
states?
Michigan, as far as gas and weight tax funding for its roads, is rated dead last.
Okay.
So there's a reason why when you drive into Ohio, everybody says, hey, these roads are so much better than Michigan's. They got better engineers. No, they got more money.
Thank you, man.
I also believe in that presentation, there was this, you had delineated the projects you had anticipated going forward a few years. Can I have that again?
Sure.
It seemed like I missed it, and I've been having a couple of questions about what streets are going to be worked on. And I know the city did have a plan as far as what streets going to be worked on. It's just about budgeting, and I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Sure. I'll get that to you through the manager's office.
I just thought I didn't know who to speak to, you or the manager, but thanks. Don't want to.
Sure.
Anyone else? Well, Phil, I want to thank you for sharing this information. As you realize, it's very important to the public as well as any street in the community. I do know, and I want to commend you guys and the city staff for working to address those areas. You probably could have picked, you know, off the list, but I know that took some finagling and some rearranging to get those on the docket as quick as you did. So for that, I appreciate it, and thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
If you would like a little bit on the Cathay Street Bridge, is that
Yes,
okay at
please.
this time?
Two streets away from what our streets foreman has labeled the worst stretch of street in the city, which is Mason between Davenport and Weiss. We have a lot of bad streets, and one of the things that has caused the deterioration of that street in particular is traffic use that is not approved. So if you see, talk to your constituents and tell them to be on the lookout for things like that. Truck traffic is what did that stretch of street in over the last few years construction at Veterans Hospital. So I know we've been telling the citizens to look out for that, and if you see that, report it, because that's one of the worst things for our streets.
Definitely.
Thank you, sir. And you're going to add some more about the catwalk, are you?
Yeah, if you would like. I mean, since I think the original request for us to take a look at that bridge was sent out in March of this year, and it came through a letter from Judge Thompson. And I want to point out one thing in his letter and what we're looking at. We're looking at a lot of things with this. First of all, who's responsible? It's a bridge to take pedestrians from one side of the street over to a school. So should the city be paying for that, or should the school be paying for that? The second thing is do we have to use general funds, or can we use gas and weight funds? So we're working on all that. We recently found 3 or 4 files that talk about the construction of it and how it was built and all that. So that's going to help us put together some of the stuff as we move forward. As the city manager said earlier, within the study, it's technically not structurally safe. It's actually structurally sound, but there are some things that are making it to where we had to close it. There's missing missing handrails. There's sections of the welds that are broke, and the estimate to repair at this time is $18,000. However, what I'm hearing from a lot of people using that bridge still has a sway to it. So, and even in Judge Thompson's letter, what he said in here is that historically, rather than use this intimidating structure, students cut a hole in the fence, crossed the track, sometimes through trains, and crawled through the hole. Prior to the closing of Arthur Eddy Academy, students were required to choose between the pedestrian bridge and a hole in the fence. And what I say by that is, he's saying, what I feel is that if you ever get over there and see that bridge, if we repair it and spend 50 more thousand to put supports on it to take the sway out of it, it's still intimidating for kindergarten through fifth graders to walk over that bridge. And I'm of the assumption that even if we put that 60,000 in there, they're still going to remove the fence across the tracks. So that's kind of everything we're looking at, because that fence wasn't removed after we closed the bridge. It's been removed for years. So what that leads me to believe is they don't want to use the bridge. So why should we spend $60,000 to repair a bridge that, first of all, I don't think they're going to use, and secondly, I don't know if the school is going to keep the school district's going to keep the school open. So there's a lot of things going on. I am getting ready to prepare another memo that I'm going to get to the manager with a lot of this that I'm going to hope to share with you in the next week or so. So.
Any questions? Councilman Pitt?
I mean, those are good medium-term to long-term solutions. And I'm sure our representatives are working with the city council to discuss it, with the school board to discuss this issue, but it may be happening. I don't know if there's like newsletters being sent out or there's conversations with parents with the parents at Arthur Eddy. I just think this is an immediate concern, and what I'm hearing is medium-term to long-term solutions, and it might be done. This might be doing that. I just don't know, and I just asking that something be done for the short term as well, because the trains keep coming, and the schools and the kids are still cutting across the tracks.
Yeah, we've been doing observations in the morning, and there's somewhere between 50 to 60 students, both in the morning and in the afternoon, crossing that area. Most of them with their parents, however, some of them are coming across. I don't know what age, but without. So, and we have we made contact. The tracks are owned by CSX, although Lake State Railway is leasing it from CSX. And because I was looking at an at-grade crossing, like I said earlier, I think even if we repair the bridge, most of them are going to cut across the tracks. It's the easiest way to do, and they're intimidated by the bridge. However, the railroad company's saying they would require pedestrian signals. They would, so it's looking like even the at-grade crossing at that location would probably end up costing substantially more money than doing the repairs to the bridge. I mean, as you said earlier, Councilman, the only other way would be to put a sidewalk going back to the east of Finley or 23rd Street, bring them south. But that it would be a quarter to a half a mile walk, and the other way would be, go west of Vets or 5th and 6th Street, and it's an even substantially greater distance, probably with more costs. So as far as a short-term solution, I don't know what that would be at this time, but.
Yeah, I understand. It's not easy, but as long as we're doing something, I'm assuming.
I think the schools have some responsibility there as well.
Sure.
So.
And that's why I just encourage that we get together and talk about it. But I'll leave that.
I thought he said balls to you next.
$18,000 to repair it. Did you say that?
Yep.
I mean, $18,000 is a lot cheaper than somebody sitting near you, or could be sitting near you that may be waiting for a case to. If somebody end up paying $200,000 for insurance that we got to pay in case some guy comes over the bridge and get hurt. I mean, if we're going to be responsible, let's spend $18,000 up front so we don't have to spend the $250,000 later. I mean, that's how I look at it. You can't assume that just because some people don't use the bridge because it's intimidating, that, I mean, if we save one life, that's good. That cuts down on the amount of money we may have to pay in case somebody get hurt. So I say fix the bridge, and if they walking across there when the bridge is fixed, then it seems like they're going to have to be a little liable themselves, I would say. So I would say let's get it fixed first, so we don't have to end up paying later. That's the way I look at it.
Councilman Flores?
Well, have you discussed this matter with the Board of Education?
I have sent emails to Dr. Jenkins on it. I sent him the same memo with all the attachments and the costs associated with, asking him to respond to me, and also gave him notification of the day that we were closing that bridge, and I have not heard back anything via email or phone. So I have shared it with the city manager, and I don't know, I'm trying to remember whether or not we made mention of it at the last city school liaison board meeting. So, no, I haven't had, and that's been probably I think the memo went out with all the costs associated with repairs and at the end of August, and then I think it was the first week of September when I sent an email about the closing of the pedestrian bridge along with the costs associated to make the repairs and or, the long term to take the sway out of it.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mr. Manager. All set.
Thank you.
Okay, now the last item we have on reports from manager is dealing with some of the issues we discussed last week and at this meeting. To be fair, I think we do have some Spanish-speaking officers in the police department. I don't want to sell them short. I think I said we could use more. And I will mention that we did meet with the NAACP representatives prior to the last council meeting and had some discussions. Councilman Tibbs, Mayor Pro Tem, and the mayor and I all met with them. I was approached after the last council meeting by the Mexican American Council. They requested to meet with me, so I didn't have everyone at that meeting. But there were some of the same issues discussed, and they actually had provided a solution for increasing the, I guess, Spanish-speaking capacity at our police department. So that was good to see that the organization made a recommendation to me on how they could help with that, and I think I'll continue to work with them. And I also already mentioned it to our interim police chief, Ruth, and I think that will be a good opportunity to bring some of that tools that we need to the police department. So. And they had a similar program with when our new bishop came to the city. So they have experience doing that, and they've got some Spanish teachers that can help with that. So I think that's good, and it's good that Councilman Tibbs mentioned that, so I could comment on that. Further, we have, I think, done quite a bit in the city to promote equal opportunity for all in our hiring and in our positions. And several council members mentioned, we can't increase a lot of things in the city because we haven't been hiring people. In particular, the fire department, I just had the conversation with Chief Van Loo today. I think I recall since I've been here, which is almost 6 years, we may have hired 2 firefighters, and our number has probably gone down from somewhere around 70 to 51, which we have now. So Councilman Clark pointed out very well, our numbers are cut in half of what they used to be, and we have lost a lot of our minority officers and firefighters that we did have due to retirements, and we haven't been able to replace anybody. But one of the things that I think helps increase the interest in public safety commissions positions, police and fire, is increasing our interaction with the youth in the city. I think that's a way to bring what we're all talking about into both of our departments, and specifically targeting students in our public schools and the Saginaw Career Complex, getting them interested at a good age in those careers. The fire department, I'm going to ask to come up and speak first, but they've been working on a program for several months. And so I thought, given what we've been talking about the past few weeks, this would be a good opportunity for them to give you a brief overview of what they're considering and what they'll be working on in the future. So Chief Van Loo, could you come up?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager. The Saginaw Fire Department understands the value of a diverse workforce, and we are committed to doing all we can to help increase diversity within the Saginaw Fire Department. We understand that our best opportunity to improve our diversity and increase the number is to increase the number of minority candidates, preferably city residents, that apply for firefighting positions. We believe we can have the biggest impact on this issue by targeting teenagers and young adults in the city and exposing them to career possibilities available at the Saginaw Fire Department. We had a couple of initiatives we've started, and I'd like to speak on the first one. We're in the process of establishing an unpaid intern program with Delta College. The basics of that is that we will target city residents for those positions. We're going to target first-year students who may not have chosen a particular career field yet or may have an interest in the fire service. The program will start small. We will likely start with at least one intern and then expand it as we grow the program and adapt to it. The intern will spend about 12 hours a week with the fire department, and we're going to be very flexible with their hours and their days, understanding their students, and we can work around that. The intern will be exposed to all facets of the fire department, from operations, prevention, training, and administration. So we're going to give them exposure to everything that we do. And the intern will spend at least one semester with us. They'll get college credit for the intern for that semester, and there's an opportunity that we could expand it to additional semesters if we wanted. The second initiative we have is the Saginaw Fire Department Youth Initiative. This is a program that's similar to an Explore program, but I feel it has a potential of reaching a greater number of youth. This is a concept that was developed by engineer Shedrick Green. He brought this concept to me, and we've had quite a few discussions on it, and he's got quite a nice program here. I'll bring Shedrick up. He's a 15-year veteran with the Saginaw Fire Department and also serves as a first sergeant in the United States Marine Corps Reserve Unit. He's been heavily involved with many of the SFD community outreach programs, and he has developed many connections and relationships with the various community youth organizations. I'd like to bring up Shedrick at this point, and he can explain his youth initiative.
Good evening, council members, city manager. Basically, the program that I would like to have the fire department start is one that's going to deal with high schoolers entering the 11th and 12th grade. And the reason I picked those two age brackets is because at some point our teenagers have to decide what they're going to do with their life. And being that that's one of the more critical times that they start deciding what it is that they truly want to do, I feel it's a greater impact for us to be able to grab them and show them that being a firefighter is an option. The program's not going to just cover being a city firefighter. The program is designed to cover all aspects of the fire profession, because there's many aspects of the profession besides just working in the city of Saginaw, Detroit, Flint, Charlotte, you name it. There's also opportunities in wildland firefighting with the U.S. Forestry Service, DNR, also opportunities in industrial firefighting such as Dow, TRW, Dow, Delphi, those corporations have them, as well as several other aircraft working at MBS, Bishop, Heathrow down in Atlanta, those different things. But what we're looking at is to initiate this program in the summer, covering the 3 summer months, June, July, and August, where we would take 1 week each of those months and kind of make a fireball, if you will, of everything that's incorporated into the fire service in that 1 week, including the physical aspects of being a firefighter, because you should be physically fit, sound mind, sound body. Also covering CPR, first aid, and these classes. So really the whole gamut of the fire service. three-week-long program. We're looking at between 5 to 10 students per week to start off with, just to see what to generate the interest in. The program will be Monday through Thursday, around 7 o'clock, 7:30 until 17:30 at night, or 5:30 for non-military people. And Friday morning, we would like to take a trip up to Roscommon. Roscommon has the Fireman Memorial, kind of explaining to them some of the sacrifices that are ultimately made by the fire profession, culminating with a graduation ceremony sometime that afternoon. I've already started approaching some businesses and groups. I've had contact with personnel at Dow Corning, personnel at MBS Airport, also some other groups that do summer programs here in the city. I've made contact with them, and we're kind of working on a bigger initiative with that, which more to follow as if this program is something that we decide that we're able to do in the Saginaw Fire Department. So like I said, our target audience are 11th to 12th graders, primarily students here at Saginaw High, Arthur Hill, and the Saginaw Career Complex. Working on the different forms of the application process. And like I said, it's something I've been working on in the past, just didn't have the teeth to bite down on it. So it was a little different at that time because I approached the Saginaw Complex about actually having a fire class for the citizens, but I think this will be more impactful and really more entertaining to draw the youth into this program. So with that, real quick and dirty, if there are any questions that I can answer.
Councilman Tibbs.
I guess I was curious, I don't know, just the manager or yourself, but have you thought about the resources that would be required, such as the financial responsibility or manpower, things of that sort?
As far as financially, there's.
I could speak to that.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, we've had discussions on the finances of the program, and like you said, Chedrick has reached out for possible sponsorships. We're certainly open for any ideas, suggestions. Anybody that would like to step up to the plate, if you will. We'll look at everything, but we're preliminary looking at the finances, what it'll take from our end of it. So.
I think that's where they're targeting next summer to be a good launching point for this program. And one of the things that you need for a program like this is commitment by the staff. So I think a good thing to point out is that this project was brought to Chief Van Loo by firefighters. So I think that's commendable that they thought of an idea to do, and I think if you own an idea, you're committed to it. So I have no doubt that fire personnel and Chedrick will be very committed to this, and will do fundraising. And I said when we met a few weeks ago that if we have to dedicate some staff time to programs like this, that's something that we can do. We're already paying the staff members, so I've talked to Chief Van Loo and Chief Ruth about that. If we move some assignments around, and that's something that we can do to help get kids interested in these public safety professions, I think it benefits everybody. And the way that Chedrick has presented this is, I think, a great opportunity to get kids interested, and the fact that they're going to focus on other aspects of fire service is good, because if we can get a diverse group of individuals interested in the profession, it helps us statewide and nationally. This is not a Saginaw only issue. It goes beyond that. So if we can get kids in the city interested, even if we're not hiring in the fire service, if they go work for the DNR or MBS Airport, it helps all of these departments, and we're helping our residents. I've talked to both of our police and fire department. I would like to see it focusing on the Saginaw Public Schools, some involvement with the Saginaw Public Schools, so that we can make sure that we're affecting our residents with these programs. And I think they're more than willing to do that. I know they've been looking at raising the funds. Administration will help them to determine the actual cost of the program. But I was even more impressed with it. So it's a little bit different the way that that they're proposing to do it. With the firefighters have proposed a more intensive type program than a general Explorer program, where maybe they're not going to have them out there polishing the truck for the whole week. They're going to actually expose them to parts of the career. So I think they've done a good job of putting it together, and I think we'll see it grow over the upcoming months, and hopefully we can have our classes start moving through it next summer, as Mr. Green mentioned.
That's great. Councilman Clark?
Thank you. I'm also very impressed. This is exactly the kind of public outreach, youth outreach program that we've been talking about from this table. So having it come from the firefighters is tremendous, and I want to thank you for bringing this forward. I do think that it should be on the agenda of the next school city council member liaison committee. And I would certainly think that we recently bought a fire truck, and maybe a fire truck company would be a source of funding or certainly a sponsorship, any of those, because if they want, the firefighters are the ones that need their equipment, and they need the firefighters. So this is a natural for us to approach them as well. So that might need to be the chief that makes that contact, but I think those kinds of things would be appropriate as well. But it's tremendous. Thank you.
Councilman Ball?
It is an excellent idea, and I appreciate you for bringing that to us, man. Really do. That's what we really need. On that same note, is there a firefighter academy too that you guys have to go to get trained to be a firefighter?
Well, yes, there is. We have a certification process. It's not as lengthy as for police officers, but there's a requirement.
How long does it take, and how much does it cost?
I don't have those specific numbers. I can get that and get that to you for sure.
I appreciate it, because maybe we can get some businesses to sponsor some people in the city of Saginaw, as well as in the police academy too. I think we need to start looking to see if we can find some sponsors for the police academy too, because I understand that sometimes people don't want to go to the academy because they still got to live and pay house note and the clothing and food bills and car notes and all that too at the same time. So maybe we ought to start looking at getting some sponsorship for all of those different things. That could be the deterrent for some people for not getting to the academy because they can't afford it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to add as well, Mr. Green and Chief, great job as we talked about at our last strategic planning session in terms of having volunteers to step up. When you have career exploration programs, you have to have volunteers. So, Mr. Green, I commend you for that, and Chief, for your insight and foresight to do this. These are the kind of programs and movements that we need, to start exposing. A lot of our kids, just for lack of exposure, not that they're all bad kids, we lump them up in a category that I think is inappropriate, but the difference between a kid who takes the path road to crime and drugs and the kid who takes the path road to careers and opportunities is exposure. Really, it really is, So I think if we could just kind of start this program, expand it, and just, we as mentors, that's something that came out of the M.T. Thompson meeting this weekend. I know we used to have programs where we went into the school. Don Scott had a program called GAP. We were in the elementary schools and talking to those young people. Case in point, Reggie Williams, current police officer for the Saginaw Police Department. I remember Reggie being at Edith Bailey School as a youngster, and we were in those schools talking to individuals like Reggie, and he pursued that career, but he had the support and exposure. So it does work. And I want to commend you for doing this, and these are the kind of things, again, we need to change the whole climate and the attitude of our community. I think when the community sees these type of episodes and movement, then the support is there. I mean, how can you not support this? It's a no-brainer. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you.
ask Chief Ruth to come up now and talk about some of their, they do have a lot of programs that they're currently doing, and they have some new ideas as well, so he's going to talk about both aspects.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, city staff, and citizens of Saginaw. I concur 100% with what the city manager and Chief Van Loo just said. Diversity is an extremely important element in our society at this point in time. We can't live without it. We have to do everything that we possibly can to make both departments and the entire city as diverse as we possibly can to match the community that we live in. And that is one of my ultimate goals. We have several programs in place at the Saginaw Police Department that we have been conducting for years. We have a couple of new ones that we're going to try. I'm going to go over some of these for you. Mayor Pro Tem, you hit the nail right on the head. Sergeant Williams. He started as a police officer, worked his way up through the ranks, and now he's a sergeant. He partakes in a program. The program is called Youth Prevention at this point. It used to be the FYI program, Family Youth Initiative. He partakes in that program. He goes to the school systems in the city of Saginaw. He teaches and mentors youth so that they can have a career in the future, whether it be a police officer, firefighter, whatever they want to do as far as a professional career. That's what he does. So he in turn is paying the community back for what you did years ago for him. And that's the type of people we need to step up to the plate. Another one that has done that is Officer Tracy Johnson. She does the same thing under that program. 70% of her work is dealing in schools, working with children and mentoring children. The other 30% are dealing with the runaways, things along that line. You have to deal with the good youth and you have to deal with the bad youth that run away. Part of that program, or actually the extent of that program, takes place during the school year. When school's in session, that's when they're there. They're mentoring the young children all the way up into the high school age under this program. In the summertime, there's another program under the same initiative, and that is called the Michigan Youth Leadership Academy. I'm sure some of you are very familiar with this. This has been taking place for the last 5 or 6 years. They will recruit and take boys and girls from the ages of 14 through 16 down to the Michigan State Police Academy for 1 week at a time. Boys go one time, girls go the next. And they're trained, discipline, leadership, how to be a police officer, how to treat people, how to respect your elders. All of those life values are taught in that program. That's just one of the programs. There's several more. We, at the police department, attend as many job fairs as we possibly can. We send officers to high schools, colleges. The most recent one we had is they had a job fair at the YMCA. We sent our community police officers over there to participate in that job fair. Another program that we've had for years at the Saginaw Police Department is an internship program. We will take in college students, at least 3 to 4 per semester, even through the summer months. We take them in. Sometimes we'll take in up to 12 to 16 interns per year through our department to educate the college students that want to be future officers on how the department operates, how it functions, how to deal with the community, how to deal with the public. It's a very important aspect. Presently, in our police academy, we have one of those interns. We got lucky. We got one. We have a couple more that we've already hired in the past. The majority of the interns that come through our department get jobs within the state of Michigan and other states. Quite a few of them have gone to the state police. Others have gone to other departments within Michigan. So it's working. The internship programs are a great element for the youth and a great training tool. Another aspect of our internship program is we have, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, we have a crime analyst at our police department, Kathy Starling. She takes in 2 to 3 interns every semester also. And these are more technical internships. They deal with crime stats and crime mapping. Very technical career in law enforcement. All of those people get jobs when they leave the department. We have been doing a lot at our police department to further the careers of young men and women in this city. Another program that we have, and we've had this program for years, it just takes some volunteerism on the part of the participant in this program. It's our reserve program. Saginaw Police Reserves volunteer their time to help the community. It teaches them respect, leadership. But you have to volunteer to do it. There is no pay. In the end, Officer Kashat, Officer Williamson, Haley Porterfield, who's in the academy, Officer James Hildebrandt, those were all reserve officers with our department. All reserve officers. They volunteered their time because they wanted to be a police officer. And we trained them through the reserve program. They worked their way up, went to the academy, and they became police officers. The reserve program is one that's going to will continue for years to come. It's a very good program. Getting more into the high school age students, Saginaw Career Complex. Every semester, fall and winter, we take on 2 or 3 students, high school students, to come and do a ride-along exploratory program at the police department. They will come. We actually have them scheduled for October of this year, and we'll do it again in the spring, usually around March or April. We'll bring the students in. They will ride on a daily basis for 5 days with officers on the road who will mentor them, teach them what a police officer does on the street. These students will work for 2 hours a day with the police officers and actually go out and handle calls, dealing with the public, and learn what it is to be a police officer. The next program is probably one of the best that I think I could probably ever come up with, and I know Mayor Browning feels the same way. It's a cadet program. We don't have a cadet program anymore. We just don't have one. It takes money. And that's one of my main goals, is to try to find the funding. I think we all heard the other day about $7 million that came to the Saginaw Community Foundation for training. It'd be nice if we could tap into some of those funds. A cadet program is I call it the Cadillac plan. The cadets, we can recruit young officers, young gentlemen or women in society in the city of Saginaw. They come to the police department and they get paid to work as a cadet and learn how to be a police officer. We had the program up until about 8 or 9 years ago. When the major budget cuts came back then, the program had to be eliminated. As I stated, the cadets are paid. They work generally 32 hours a week. They learn every facet of being a police officer. They will work with investigation, technical services. They'll work with our garage section, in a sense, with the vehicles, understanding the maintenance of the vehicles. They will work in patrol. They will work in every aspect. And we even put them on the desk. So they'll learn. We had an opportunity about a year to a year and a half ago to sort of have a quasi-cadet program. We reduced our staff tremendously because of budget cuts. One of the things that we had to do is we had to reallocate our resources at the police department. We couldn't afford to keep a full-time police officer sworn and certified at the desk anymore. So we put a part-timer at the desk. Through the unions, we had to bring somebody in that was already at the police department in the records section. There was an individual at the records section who wanted to be a police officer. It's a minority. He wanted to be an officer. He's expressed that to people. Other officers talked to him about it. We put him at the desk. Did a tremendous job. Learns how to deal with the community. deal with the people that come in, learns how to write reports. Right now, he's one of the best report writers we have in the department. He writes more reports than an officer on the road. Very good candidate. He went to the academy. We sent him to the academy. Unfortunately, he had an injury. We didn't throw him to the curb. He had to leave the academy a few weeks ago. We put him back on the desk. Hopefully, he will heal enough so that we can send him back to the academy in January when we have another academy. And if it's not in January, hopefully we can get him there next August. Give him some time to heal. That position at the desk is a tremendous one to use like a cadet position until we get one, but it's only one person. It'd be just tremendous if we could find the funding and the money to get 5 or 6 or 7 cadets within the department. That would be my ultimate goal, is to research for funds like that and try to find some grants. They have to be out there. All we do is have to look. And as Chief Van Loo said, we need people to step up to the plate. That's what we need. The next one, I'll be proud to announce, the Citizens Police Academy. That was a great success last year. Applications are at the desk for the next one. It starts on October 1st. You can apply through September 28th. It was in the paper last week. We've been telling all the neighborhood associations. The Citizens Police Academy is a tremendous tool for anyone over the age of 18. If you're interested in being a law enforcement officer, you can come to the academy. Learn about what the police do. It's 7 weeks. They're on Wednesday nights from 5:30 to 7:30. And even for the adults, for the parents, for the preachers, the ministers, they understand what the police have to do and why they have to do it. They understand the way that we're trained, some of the techniques that we use in communicating with people, some of the techniques that we have to use when someone's violent and they want to fight, some of the pressure points. They're going to learn all of that in the police academy. And these are things that the parents, the ministers, and the mentors of our society can take back to the youth and teach them after the police academy. Next, I've really got to give on this one, I've got to give Pastor Larry Camel a lot of credit. I toured his facility. Used to be, for those of you who lived in the city all of your lives, which I have, Hillier Hardware over at Weber and Sheridan. He took Hillier Hardware and he turned that thing into a great training center for the youth. He gave me a tour of his facility last week. He doesn't have one computer lab for kids, he's got 2. He's got a pantry in there for food when people need food that he gives to the poor. He's got a recreation room, pool table, other items in there, TVs, couches, books for the kids to read, for the kids to do something after school. What he did is he partnered up with Lieutenant Carpenter from our department. They created a program called Next Generation of Leaders. And I'll be proud to say it started tonight at 4 o'clock and lasted till 6. This was their very first session. Pastor Camel went into the community. He went into the neighborhoods where his center is, and he recruited kids from the neighborhood, young kids to come in and learn to be a leader, learn how to respect people. That's what he's teaching. He also went to the churches to get people involved in this organization. He's just doing a tremendous job with the community. He stepped up to the plate, and he's doing what he needs to do to help our youth. I got to give him credit for it. He's just doing a tremendous job. Another one, I've got to give credit to Lieutenant Konjorski. Tom Miller Jr. is sitting in the corner back there. They worked with the Saginaw Community Foundation. We've got another grant. We were just awarded the grant last week. The money will come in probably a little after the first of the year. It's a Department of Justice Project Safe Neighborhood grant. What the grant basically does is it pays overtime for police officers, as well as some other items that Mr. Miller will use in his endeavors to help the youth. They're basically going to help children in school and teach classes. This mainly will be at Thompson Middle School. That's what they're going to target on this particular grant. And other youth programs throughout the community, be it through the school year and in the summertime. So that grant, I think, will do some good for the children of Saginaw and young adults. Another item that a lot of us sometimes forget about is our community police officers. We have 4 of them. We have 4 quadrants in our quadrant system now. Each one of those quadrants has a community police officer. They go to their schools on a daily basis and work with the students. They meet the students, they talk to the students, they hand by hand work with the students with their issues, dealing with their problems. So we have the community police officers that are out there doing this. Another program that several of our officers are doing, and I know there's several firefighters that do this also, they go to Arthur Eddy and they read to small children during a lunch hour. Do that on a monthly basis. You got to start small with the kids. That's where the respect comes in. If we can catch the kids when they're little, and we can teach them to respect their parent and respect the authority of the parent and the authority of the ministers, school teachers, eventually they will respect the authority of the police and hopefully develop a mindset to want to be a police officer or a firefighter in the city of Saginaw. The only way we're going to do it is we got to start young, real young. Now, some of the programs that we've got coming up in the future, and these are some of the ones that we're working on at this point in time. I'm just going to touch them very briefly because of the time. It's getting rather late. There is another grant out there that we are researching at this point in time. It's called Safe Schools, Healthy Schools. And just in a nutshell, what it does is it brings back the school resource officers. It's a matching grant. It's with the City of Saginaw school system. They already have the grant. They obtained it already. We can be part of it if we wish. We have to match with one officer. We need the funding for that one officer. Obviously, I've talked with the city manager. I have some ideas about how we can do that through reallocation of manpower within the department. I think it's a possibility. So that's something that we're going to research. If we can get the school resource officers back into the schools, that will help, I think, mentor and improve some of the relations with our youth. Another program that Sergeant Williams is instituting is the Explorer program. And it's not new to us at the Saginaw Police Department. We've had an Explorer program in the past. When the budget cuts came, we reduced our staff, the program went away, just like the cadet program did. We are going to reinstitute the program within the next 2 to 3 weeks. The program should be up and running. I sent a letter to all the patrol officers about 2 or 3 days ago asking them last Friday, asking for volunteers. We already have several back that will volunteer to help mentor the youth. So Officer Williams is going to begin the program here in a few weeks. That program, again, the Explorer program, is just like any other Explorer program. Generally, they run with the school year. You try to have the program run in the summertime, too, to occupy the minds of the students through the summer. But it will run in conjunction with the school year, generally. It teaches the youth respect. They will wear a uniform. They will be taught how to communicate with other officers in the department. Yes, sir, no, sir. Taught respect. And all the facets of a police officer. Every single department, they'll be taught. They'll be going out on ride-alongs, learning how to operate and function as a police officer. Hopefully to encourage them to be police officers down the road. And if they don't want to be a police officer, maybe they want to be a firefighter. Who knows? But that is one of the programs that we're going to get up and running in a few weeks. I went over a lot of programs. We have done a lot over the years, and we are going to continue to do it. That's the only way we're going to turn this thing around. That's it. Plus with a little infusion of money. We got to have the money, and we got to find the grants to do it, because right now our budgets don't allow us to do it. We have just enough of money to make the city police department run at the present time. And we need every dollar we can get. So one of my goals will be to try to find the funding for some of these programs. And the ultimate goal of mine will be to fund the cadet program, if we can reinstitute it. I think that's the best program there is. I've talked to other chiefs at other departments around Michigan in the last week or so, and they feel the same way. It's absolutely the best program you can get to recruit people within your community. You can pick them when they're young, put them in the program, and teach them how to be police officers. Teach them respect. And more importantly, teach them the fundamentals that they need to have to pass the tests to qualify to be a police officer or a firefighter, and to make it when they get into the police academy. That'll be the conclusion of my speech. Any questions?
Thank you, Interim Chief Ruth. Questions from the council? Councilwoman Moore.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that the one officer that's in the academy got injured. Are there technical supports for the ones that remain in there? Is there tutoring going on? Is there helping them through this process?
There actually is, and I don't want to mention names because of embarrassment, but two of the applicants in the academy, or two of the I should call them basically cadets in the academy at this point in time, are doing absolutely fine, no problems at all. One is having some issues, and what I did is I had an officer at the department that volunteered to mentor this person. Seems to be working on a very personal basis. The recruit from the cadet is coming and riding with the officer, coming to the range. They're getting a little extra help on shooting skills. Whatever type of skills they need, we're giving that extra help.
So there is help for them.
Oh, yeah, there's help.
Okay, that's what I was
I'm not going to
asking.
let somebody fail. We're going to give them all the help that we can possibly give them.
Okay.
I've, at the police department, I've been there for a long time. For about the last 7 to 8 years, I've been in charge of the training program for new officers. I've trained a lot of police officers. I've mentored the trainers of these officers, the other police officers. And that is one very important aspect to me. We're going to give everybody every opportunity that we can to succeed. And that's what we're doing with the candidates in the academy. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Chief. Just a question now. I guess it's the same question that I asked the fire chief. And I guess the reason why I'm asking is that we're on the checks and balance system here, and everyone agrees that diversity should be imperative and it's important. And I think one of the checks that we have, at least in my opinion, is that when we review the budget, we can say that, or we can ask questions, well, can we use these funds for that, or is it going to cost that much to do this? So now, but I was going to ask you, do you have any idea of how much it would cost to do an Explore program? And I guess I'll put it in perspective. I know the township has an Explore program, and I believe it's 100% funded by private donations. And maybe at some point the city could get there, but at least it'd help us as far as me as a city council member, put me in a position to say, hey, is this something we can actually afford or not? So I guess I'm asking you, do we have an idea how much such a program will cost the city if we should take that option?
I don't feel it's going to be that expensive. Actually, Sergeant Williams met with Terry Pruitt today of the NAACP, and they have worked out some sort of program where they will fund the little bit of money it takes. An Explorer program is a volunteer program. The thing that we have to look at is the incentives that you give to the explorers. They have to have uniforms. That's part of the discipline process of being an explorer. They have the uniforms. They have little patches and pins that they put on when they achieve certain levels, just like in the Boy Scouts. When you achieve a certain merit badge, you get the merit badge. That's where the cost comes in. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of cost.
We're just going to get an idea. I mean, well, I don't know if I'm just one member out of the council, but I just think that's a good idea. So maybe that's something we can look at.
Sure.
To get an idea of how much it would cost, how much we should raise, how much the city could contribute, things of that sort. We don't make ultimate.
Raise all the money you can raise. We'll take it. And if we don't use it in this program, we'll use it on one of our other ones.
But at least to give us an attainable goal
Sure.
when we do go to organizations and say, hey, look, this is what we think this Explorer program is going to cost.
Sure.
And then maybe together we can work to.
Yes. Sergeant Williams is sort of mirroring the program from the township. And I would suspect within a week and a half to 2 weeks, we'll have a better idea of the cost. Sergeant Williams couldn't be here tonight. He had some family obligations. He was supposed to be here, and then the meeting ran so late, he couldn't make it. So he will be able to get us that information within a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. I'll get it to the city manager, who could forward it to the council.
Yes, thank you. Actually, sort of follow-up, that's the Explore program. That program obviously costs a lot more. Do you have you got any idea of that cost, or is that something you could also give us?
The way that it used to be would probably be quite expensive. I would, a rough estimate would probably be about $25,000 a year per cadet, because they did work 32 hours a week, and if you just figure $15 an hour, that gets you in that range. But obviously, we look at the Explorer program, I would think is a good feeder for a cadet program. Definitely. And perhaps, you may have a cadet program that's not quite as extensive as it used to be. Maybe it's 20 hours a week and it's lower pay, but as Councilman Balls mentioned, you got to keep paying your bills while you're trying to explore these different types of academies and professions. So that's something we could talk about. I think the first step is to get the Explorer program going and successful, and then in the upcoming years, when the city financial position, if that increases or there's additional grant funds available. I know we really need to work with the school system on these things if they have job training grants available. We did have all the kids here from the career complex that won awards, and there was an individual here that I think placed 3rd in the country in the forensic category, so that's also a great opportunity to have a different type of program. If they have a forensic program at the career complex, maybe they can ride along with detectives. We have some of our detectives are crime scene technicians as well, so that would be a natural fit. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do, in particular with this Saginaw school system, and as I mentioned with the fire department. I think that would be a great way to have our residents involved, is to perhaps even require it to be, you need to be a Saginaw Public School student, a Saginaw resident, or a participant in the career complex. I think we could do that for both police and fire programs that we've talked about.
City manager, I think, is similar to the fire department. If we can stick with one, get some traction on it. A typical Explorer program, for example, the Explorers is a part of the Boy Scouts of America. Okay, it's a connection with that organization. A typical Explorer post, there's a charter fee of $40. That's for the application to say that, hey, we're an official Explorer post. The application fees for the youth who participate, that's $24 plus $1 for insurance, okay? And a lot of those costs, I know, can be underwritten by sponsorship. So initial cost of $40 to say, hey, we want to be a charter organization for Explorer Post for Saginaw Police Department. That'll be it. And then you recruit the students. The students pay the membership fee plus $1 insurance, which affords you all the amenities of the camps around the state. There are like 5 camps around the state that Boy Scouts of America and Explorers can participate. They can have training programs and go on week-long excursions. at those camps. So I think, again, going to something that we can put traction on, explore posts, you can get support for, contact the Boy Scouts of America, and you can get local sponsors to support that $40 fee, get some folks to support. I want to sponsor 2 youth, that's $50. I'm sure there are a lot of folks, I would do it, I've done it, I will do it again. I'll sponsor 2 or 3 youth, so we can do that and set up an Explore post and have it sustained by the support of concerned citizens, and you'll have a post. So if you need any help with that, as I said at the retreat, I have a lot of experience in that. I've ran great programs in Detroit, skilled trades programs, police, fire. I've done that before. So I offer my support again. If you
And
need
we
some
will
help,
use it. I'll send Sergeant
Okay.
Williams your way.
Okay, I can connect you with some folks and get it going. All right?
Great.
So, are there any other comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Manager.
That concludes the management update.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, you are now at consent agenda, and I'd like to remind the council members that item number 6 is removed and not asked to have any action on it this evening.
All right, colleagues, we need a motion to adopt consent agenda, leaving room for exceptions. All in favor? Aye. Are there any exceptions? Are there any exceptions? Are there any exceptions? All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it.
Next item on your agenda is reports from boards, commissions, and committees.
Are there any reports from board commissions and committees at this time? Any report? Go ahead, Councilman Moore.
911 committee met on last Thursday. We're in the process of looking at developing some new things. And I think that we're going to get together and try to balance out with some complaints that were within the departments. And so the board has been working hard at trying to improve all of those areas. So they said that the call volume is still high. Every week I get a report on how many 911 calls went out. It's real fascinating to watch all of the calls that go. But they are now getting ready to start channeling the 911 calls, some that are not 911, to the city dispatch, to 211, and the different codes. The brochure that we worked on, Ms. Debbie, I'm asking the council members to look over that brochure again, because at the meeting, Mayor Pro Tem said the mayor said we needed to forward with it because we talked about it. And they were excited in the township about this brochure that we developed with the different resources for the city of Saginaw, an alternative to calling 911 for everything that happens. So it was a real productive meeting. I got there late, but it was real productive, that I did here. Okay.
Councilwoman?
That's it.
Are there any other reports? I'll just take a moment just to, again, remind you guys of the 10th annual fundraising event. As I promised, there is a flyer at your table. This is the Michigan Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials. It's an affiliate of the Michigan Municipal League. And as I said, it's an annual fundraiser for scholarships and educational and training for students as well as elected officials. The event, again, is held will be held October the 25th at the Horizon Conference Center. Guest speaker is Mark Fancher, who's the state attorney with the Racial Justice Project, ACLU of Michigan, and Mr. Donald Snyder. Actually, Mr. Snyder was a partner with Mr. the gentleman from Economic Development. Mr. Finney. Very, very impressive gentleman. Very impressive. So the information's there for you, and encourage all to participate in one form or fashion. And if you need additional information beyond what you have, please let me know, and we will provide that for you. Okay, that concludes my report. All right, Madam Clerk.
Consideration and passing of ordinances. We do have one this evening. We have an ordinance to amend the official city map by vacating Miller Street between the south line of Niagara Street and the Saginaw River, and no structure shall be erected thereon without the prior consent of the city.
Need motion to adopt. Movement and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance adopted.
Mayor Pro Tem, you are now at resolutions. We do have one this evening. Approving an industrial facilities tax exemption certificate for DePere Corporation at 1200 Leon Scott Court.
Need motion to adopt. Been moved and supported. All in favor? I'm sorry, discussion. Councilman Clark.
Thank you. Yes.
Time is up.
Just for everyone to be aware of, there is a section on the certificate that states that city assessor has determined and furnished to the council the value of the property to which the above-mentioned application pertains. That had not been provided with the original, but has been subsequently provided to council, so council needs to be aware that if we didn't have it, we'd be falsely stating an approval of a certificate. As long as we have it, we're fine. If anyone's got questions, they can ask about it. But we are, the city assessor, or the state equalized valuation proportion is adequate, so there's no concern there. But I want everyone to be aware of, when we receive these, that's an important element to keep track of, because if we exceed the proportion that allows it to be exempt, then we can't do it. It isn't likely we're going to have that happen because we're not near it, but it is a requirement. So, having said that, I have nothing else.
Thank you, Councilman. It's been moved and supported. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion adopted. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Pro Tem, your next item of business is motions and miscellaneous business. Our first item is a motion to go into closed session to discuss pending litigation.
So moved.
Moved and supported. All in favor? Aye. Madam Clerk, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes, Councilwoman Bench. Councilman Coloris.
Yes.
Councilwoman Moore.
Yes.
Councilman Balls.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Fitzpatrick is absent. And Councilman Tibbs.
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill.
Yes.
We have 7 yes votes and 0 no.
We're in closed session.